Hello, my Teaserking family. 1 second. How is everybody today? The U.S. government closed. That's good. That's good news for us. They can't do any more damage. Huge day yesterday in the pros. Hit every game. So my locks were the Rams, Utah under, winner. The Rams with Seattle tonight, but I got 7.5, which is why I play the games early, and I advise you strongly, if you like the game, and there's no, like Cam Rising's not injured, when you see the number you want, we know Seattle's not going to stay a 1.5 point dog, but if you can find it, so it's sort of like buying a stock. If Microsoft drops 5 points and you're going to buy it and there's no reason it's negative, then you buy it. Like gold. Gold's very cheap right now. There's no reason not to buy it. So you buy it because you know it's going to go up, which has been my whole thing for 2.5 years now. So if we recap yesterday's actions, so we start with the over in the Miami Buffalo game. Very easy. 53.5, 48-20, 68. Tug disappears in the big games, just as we thought. No defense. And here's where I get Buffalo as a 12, but, it's 48-20. So it's not, 12 is an average of the weak teams and the strong teams. You got to keep that in mind. It's a good defense. It ain't that good. It's not like the New York Jets. Denver, Chicago, we don't play, but we like Denver after losing by 100 points. We know they're fired up. They played the Bears, and they held them to 28, which is pretty good for a Denver team. They got the win. Over under a 46 does go over, but I don't play the game. I let it go. Baltimore, Cleveland, I gave you as a free play here, 28-3. Baltimore wins. 31, the over under was 39, so the free pick, that one wins. The other free pick is tonight, Seattle. Again, getting 7.5 was the free pick. Now you're getting 4.5 or so. I don't like it as much, but I don't see the Giants blowing them out. If anybody blows out, Seattle will, but with Metcalf and Lockett and everybody's fairly healthy and Walker, I think it'll be Seattle. I got Seattle 27-10, maybe a little closer. Then we go Cincinnati, Tennessee. We don't play the game. I did like it under, didn't play it. 27-3, Tennessee. Joe Burrow does not look good. The calf is bothering him. So I'm laying away from Cincinnati. However, I can see a case to play them under. They got a pretty good defense, although they gave up 27 points, but I don't know if there was turnovers or not. But Burrow doesn't look good. Stay away from Burrow. The lock of the day, Indy, LA. I have LA plus 7.5. The better team favored. They were up 23-0, getting 7.5, 30.5-0. The game was over. A good comeback by Richardson. I don't know if he ran, but for 3 quarters he didn't do shit. But give him credit at the end. He did make did get you to the over. So Stafford looked good. Indy, no defense. So again, that was the first half of the lock with Utah and with Seattle. That's why I put the lock into teasers. When I see a good lock like this, how the hell is Indy favored? What would have made Indy be favored? Now, LA lost to Frisco 30-23. Okay, but they put up 23 on Frisco. They beat Seattle and make them look sick. So there was no reason. LA with Stafford and Aaron Donald are a very good team. Last year they weren't. They were all injured. You get a team like this getting 7, but you have a weak favorite in Indy. That's the key. If they're playing Kansas City, maybe they're playing San Francisco. Well, they just played San Francisco and they only lost by 7. So even against the really good teams, they're probably a pretty live dog. Against a team like Indy with Richardson, yeah. So that's why they were locked. And they stayed. Indy -1 was the final. I couldn't believe the Rams. I had the Rams -7. I was shocked that they were the dog. That's why I make my own lines. Then I can see, well, wait, I got the Rams -7 and they're getting points from a team like Indy. That's what creates the locks, is the wrong spread. I don't know what reason could have been given to make Indy the favorite here, but they came back and made a game out of it. But it was the Rams 23-0, and you're getting points. So it was never no sweat on that. That's what I like. Tampa Bay, New Orleans, like the under in the game, 26-9. Tampa wins. New Orleans, Winston sucks. Tampa, we're still figuring out. Maybe they got a good defense, or it's just Winston sucks, or Kamara. I got to see the stats on the game. But that, New Orleans is pretty much an under team. Tampa Bay is pretty much an under team. So until we really figure out what the hell is going on here with both teams, you can just play them under. I couldn't trust Tampa. I don't trust Mayfield. I certainly don't trust Winston. And so that's a lot of it, is, do you trust the quarterback? We all trust Mahomes. We all trust Burrow when he's healthy. So it's sort of a trust issue. Washington, Philly. I play Philly -2.5. Like I said, if you listen to my class yesterday, I said this spread should be 3.5 or 4. You're getting lucky. The 8.5 didn't make any sense. So we get it under a field goal, and they win by a field goal, 34-31. So we get the winner, and a spread that never should have been 8.5. I didn't understand that at all. But as we see, Philly with the 20, Washington does not have the defense like they did last year. Philly's defense is not what it should be. It's a 20, and here they give up 31 to Thurston Howell III. I don't get that. So I don't know, is Howell any good or is he not any good? Again, this is the problem with the NFL. One week he looks good against Denver. Then he goes last week and he throws 4 picks. And this week he lights up Philly, who I'm not convinced has a good defense. I think Jim Schwartz left for Cleveland. Cleveland had a bad game, but I don't know how much of it was the fact that Thompson Robinson, I think he threw a few interceptions and no touchdowns. So he's good, but he's got to get into it. I still think he's better than Watson at this point. Give him a few more games. But see, that's what you do. You don't start Thompson Robinson the first week. Now, if he wasn't injured, he'd be on the bench learning. That's what these other idiots should be doing. The Richardsons and the Steve Youngs and the Strouds. What are they doing playing? It's a joke. Carolina, Minnesota. Young looks like shit. They get 13 points on Minnesota's defense. That's pretty shitty. 21-13 game. Both defense. Now, Minnesota's got a 27 defense, and they held them, Carolina, to 13, I think, is Bryce Young's terrible. If Andy Dalton plays, this is an easy over. So as it turns out, it still gets there. No, it's a 34, over under 46. Probably the only time Minnesota won't go over is playing one of these crap quarterbacks. So this is how you measure the quarterback, because he doesn't light up Minnesota's defense, who's the worst. So if he's not lighting up Minnesota's defense, who's he going to light up? I mean, they're maybe the Bears. Are the Bears worse? Well, statistically, it's Denver and the Bears with the worst defenses. But Denver is skewed by Miami. So it's like a college game. Pittsburgh and Houston. Had this game under. I did bet it 41.5, so under 47.5. I got the score, but I didn't get it the team right, which is why I bet the over-under here. Houston wins 30-6. Pickett's obviously terrible. They get 6 points on one of the worst worst defense. Houston's a 24 defense, holds you to 6. Pittsburgh's defense is good enough. And again, it's a 30-6 game. So 36, we're under 47, and an easy winner. Pitt, just about all the time, you play them under. They have a great defense and no quarterback, no offense. When will they realize they made a mistake on Pickett? It's sort of like, I think the light's going on with Chicago. They're realizing Field sucks. Carolina won't realize that Young sucks until it's too late. I mean, they have a chance for Williams, Hartman, Rising, Van Dyke, and they're going to keep, you keep Pickett, you keep Bryce Young, and you got a chance for those guys. And that really is the problem. They don't understand what the hell they're doing. Oakland, San Diego, Garoppolo is out. They played O'Connell from Purdue. He didn't play too bad. I have San Diego even. I didn't understand this line. Normally, I would have bet the dog, which would have won, but in this case, I took San Diego even. Herbert lit it up, and they win 24-17. They're way up. Typical San Diego, they're up 24-3. Then it's two late touchdowns by Oakland. The last one was with a minute left, so they weren't going to lose. But again, they don't know how to put you away, and they just play. They kill the clock, and then how many times did the idiot go for it on 4th down with the lead? Who knows? But they get the win, and that we got them even, so that was a good one. Dallas, New England. I played this under 43, so I'm under 49. 38-3, they get to 41. You had 2 defensive touchdowns by Dallas, a strip sack and a pick 6, I believe. So really, Prescott, it's 24-3, which is about what I expected against New England with a pretty good defense. Mac Jones is just terrible. Again, another situation where teams got a quarterback who sucks, but they don't draft anybody else because they have him and they think, oh, well, we got Jones. He'll get better. No, he won't get better. And the reason I say this, if you look at Brock Purdy, he's good now. You look at Burrow, he was good right away. He didn't need 5 years to get good. The good quarterbacks walk right in. All right, they throw some interceptions, but they're good. That's not what you got. Mac Jones sucks. He finally put Zappe in the game. After it only took 5 interceptions by Jones, or 4 or 5, till he finally put Zappe in. But good luck was, you're down 35-3. What do you want him to do? Or 38-3, whatever the score was at the time. Again, so that was another winner, Dallas under. Arizona, Frisco. I like Frisco. I said Arizona shot their load against Dallas. Frisco's now ready for him, and Frisco had him pretty big. Arizona came back a little, and then Frisco finished them off, McCafferty. So 35-16, they cover the 14. I had the game. I didn't play the game. I would have played under Frisco, but Frisco with Purdy, McCafferty, I don't know if they're an under. They're more an A team, so you more play on the Niners. Very hard to play it under, but I think they've got Dallas this week. I think that's the Sunday night game. I think it's either Philly, Frisco, or here, I got it. It's Dallas, Frisco. So this will be an under game with that defense. Now, Parsons hurt his foot in the game, limped out, came back in. So he's a little banged up. It's probably just like a Mahomes hurt his ankle the game before, and he was okay. I mean, he didn't seem to have a problem running around at the end and sliding at the 1 yard line. So I didn't play this game. I was thinking of under, but I didn't want to. I knew the Niners would win. That was the pick in the free pool. We'll pick this week's too. And that's what you got. So you got basically Frisco beat them the way Dallas should have beat them. KC, the Jets. We have the Jets, Jets in 15. I thought that was a joke. It stayed under also 42, went down to under 48. It's a 23-20. So it would have went over had they scored the touchdown at the end, but Mahomes was smart enough to slide it to one and then just take 3 knees and win the game. Most idiots would have scored, creating a touchdown, onside kick touchdown scenario, which the likelihood isn't good. You get it, but it's there. But if you slide and then you just take 3 knees, the game's over. And that's the difference. The Jets look better. Wilson looked better. Their defense looked great. That call against Sauce Gardner on the holding on 3rd and 20 was hellacious. That was a fixed game there. I mean, that was just the most pathetic call I've ever seen. I mean, he really, all right, he touched him. Did he hold him? Did he prevent him from moving? No. And that's really the idea of the hold. If I grab the guy and I prevent him from going for the ball, that's holding. The ball wasn't even thrown at the time. He was touching him, but he really wasn't preventing him or holding him. And the ref has to be conscious. It's 3rd and 20. Do I really want to make this call? That's what the ref should be thinking. Not, okay, I'm going to bail out Mahomes with this bullshit call. I mean, that was very, very questionable. There was a lot of very, very questionable calls in that game. And I know Salo was bitching at the ref, as he should have. He got fucked because it's 3rd and 20. They hold him. So now it's going to be 4th and 20. He'll get the ball back and at least tie it up or win it. So I didn't agree with the ref at all. I don't think you should do the bail. It's like in basketball with a guy, there's 1 second left on the clock and the guy just puts up a prayer and you call the foul. And you're like, no, you don't call the foul on that. Unless it's a very blatant, obvious, he held him and fouled him. Don't bail out the guy shooting the ball with 1 second left on the clock. And that's what I thought he did here. So the Jets again as the dog, and they were down a little, but the Jets are a very good team. I don't understand people. They have played the hardest schedule. You've now played Frisco, Dallas, 2 best teams in the NFC with Philly. Oh no, they didn't play Frisco. They played Buffalo, Dallas, now Kansas City, and New England, who has a good defense, which hurt them. But that's what you're playing. When did they get to play Miami? Don't kill Miami. All right, and tonight, now Seattle's a 1.5 point favorite. I've already bet them as the dog Monday or Tuesday. That's why I want to give you a free pick early. You bet it. If you want to wait, now you only get 4.5. At 7.5, that's why it's a lock. Okay, they lose. They're not going to lose by more than 7. It's a common number. It could happen. They could lose by 8 by the stupid 2-point conversions or going for it on 4th down. But basically, my score here is 27-10. The Giants have a 33 defense, meaning they can't stop. They could not stop USC or Washington. So, very weak defense. I think the game goes over. Seattle does not have a great defense either. But now, if this was the line initially, Seattle 1.5, I probably would not have locked it, and I would have maybe given it as a free play. The reason it was locked and free played is they were the dog. And again, I'm telling you, I knew it wouldn't stay. I knew the bet that the line would move towards Seattle. That's what I know. That's why I bet early. I already know where it's going, right? A USC over is going over. It's not coming down. The USC Colorado was 72. It wasn't going down to 68. It actually got to 73.5. And they did that rather easy. They got an 80, 88 on it. So anyway, my score picks. Let's go through that. So I got Atlanta 24-17. Jacksonville wins 23-7. I have no idea. Jacksonville loses to Houston. Atlanta beats Green Bay, loses to Detroit. And now they lose to Jacksonville. This is the problem, and this is the problem betting those type of teams. So you must stay away from Atlanta, Jacksonville. They're inconsistent. And this is my problem in college. I'm chasing inconsistent teams who I think, like Kansas, I think they're better than they are or more consistent. I'm going to get out of them what I think I'm going to get out of. Normally, that Kansas-Texas game would have been an over and it would have been an easy winner. Instead, I'm taking Kansas. That's why I play the overs and unders more. Miami-Buffalo, I had Buffalo 35-30, a 65-point game, 48-20, a 68-point game. In my mind, it's fine. I picked over 53-47, so all I cared about was get into the 50s, and I knew they'd get into the 60s. I knew Tag would choke, and that's exactly what happened. He always chokes the big games. Denver, Chicago, I had Denver 42-35. They win 31-28. Pretty fucking close. Russell Wilson, I knew would have a field day. Fields, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Probably ran a lot. We know he can't throw. But we see that Denver and Chicago have no defense. So any good offense going against the Bears, like Minnesota, they're going to put up a big number. Even fucking Green Bay put up a big number, and they don't have an offense. And that's what the problems are early on. Here's Green Bay. They go to Chicago. They light them up. You think they have an offense. Then they play Atlanta and New Orleans. You're not sure. And then they play Detroit. You go, they don't have an offense. And so that's the problem with them. Love is going into the Mac Jones category. Another bust. Riddler's a bust. I mean, we can go through the quarterbacks in a minute. Baltimore, Cleveland, I had initially 17-6 Cleveland, then Watson's out. We know Chubb's out, so I changed it to 13-10 Baltimore, and they win 28-3. So I had a 23, and it ends up 31, still way under, and that's what we had. Cleveland, surprised they gave up 28. I'm not sure they did. In other words, if this is a pick six, the defense didn't give up the points. Cincinnati, Tennessee, got Cincy 20-17. Tennessee wins 27-3. Joe Burrow is just pathetic now. Obviously, he's injured. They obviously don't have anybody, and I don't think the rest is really going to help him. I think and I don't know that it's a calf. I've never heard of a calf lasting this long. So I don't know what's wrong with Burrow. We just know something is, and they're not the same team without him. The Rams, Indy, got 24-14. The Rams, they win 29-23. Just about the way I saw it. They were going to win. They should have won, and they did. New Orleans, 17-14 over Tampa. Low scoring, 31. Tampa wins 26-9. I still get a low scoring, 35. So the thought was low scoring, but you've got Winston in a quarterback, and he's terrible. Philadelphia, I got 34-20, wins 34-31, so not bad. I hit Philly's score. A little bit more, but I had Philly minus 2.5, and they win. So that's the bottom line. So pretty good there. I'm not going to nail the games dead on, but picking Philly score, I'm pretty impressed. Minnesota 31-24 over Carolina, wins 21-13. So I got them winning by 7. They win by 8. I couldn't go over. I would have went over with Dalton, but with Young, I can't go over. I can't trust him to do anything. They're not playing Arkansas State and Louisiana Lafayette. This is the NFL. And as you can see from Mac Jones, they're good against college teams. So let's see. Pitt and Houston, I have Pitt winning 14-10. Stroud puts up 30-6. I don't know, again, if the defense scored. I haven't really checked the box scores yet. 36 Houston. Again, I got it as a 24. It's a 36. Over under 41. We're under 47. We get a low-scoring game. Give Stroud credit. He's getting better, so that's fine. Looks like the only one who's really bad is Young and Pickett and Josh Love, and we can go down the list, Mac Jones. Dallas, New England, I got 21-13. Dallas, they win 38-3. They get 2 defensive scores, so it's 24-3. I was dead on there. Prescott sucks. They get the ball in the red zone like 5 times, and they kick field goals. That's all Prescott. That's all play calling. You got to run the ball in from there. Anyway, 38-3. I got the game under. It's 41. It stays under. And a lot of that was because New England's got a good defense, and Dallas has a good defense. And they got Prescott. So no quarterbacks, good defenses, should be an under. But you got the 2 defensive touchdowns. So it should have been a 24-3 game, which is 27, which is about right. You get 38-3 because of the defensive scores. And that's just Mac Jones. I mean, he's pathetic. I don't know what Belichick, who's so great, is looking at. It's not Tom Brady on the field. You've got a guy who sucks. And the problem is are you that stupid that you can't realize you got a guy that sucks? Because you have a guy on the bench who's 10 times better than him. Why you refuse to play Zappy and you go to this guy, I don't understand. You're such a great coach, supposedly. Well, with Brady anyway. Without Brady, you're not a great coach. But what are you doing? What the fuck you doing leaving Jones in there? I guess you don't want to win. You're trying to get back to the owner because he signed Brady. And the owner's pretty pissed at him for letting Brady go. As Brady won another Super Bowl with Tampa, that would have been New England's. And believe me, Kraft is like, fuck, you just cost me a Super Bowl for this shit, for Mac Jones. Even Garoppolo sucks. He's always hurt. He's not a good player. Frisco, Arizona. I got Frisco 31-10. They win 35-16. Pretty fucking good. Kansas City, I got 21-17. Wins 23-20. Had the Jets in 15.5. That was a pretty good call. I don't think anybody thought when I put down 21-17, I don't think anybody believed me. You got to start believing the professor. I've been doing this a week or two. Tonight, I got Seattle 27-10, and I think it'll be right around there. Seattle definitely gets upper 20s. And really without, Barkley, you got Jones running around. All right, Seattle doesn't have a great quarterback, great defense. So, yeah, he can do it, but there's no way the Giants are stopping this offense and Coach Pete. Part of the bets also is Coach Pete against, I don't even know who the Giants coach is. So keep that in mind also. So let's look at quarterbacks. Goff against Love. Goff wins. Love looks like crap. Atlanta, Jacksonville, we got the Riddler against Trevor Lawrence. Riddler looks terrible. Lawrence looks terrible. Miami, Buffalo, Tug against Allen. Tug played his normal game against Buffalo. Allen looked really good. Denver, Chicago, we got Wilson's and Fields. Wilson looked good. Fields looked good against this defense, which apparently but I think a lot of it's injuries. Baltimore, Cleveland, Lamar against Thompson Robinson. Thompson Robinson's first game. Baltimore with a good defense. Lamar, he had a few touchdowns against Cleveland. That's very impressive against Cleveland. So he's beat Cleveland and Cincinnati. Burrow against Tannehill. Burrow just too injured. Tannehill, okay. Nothing special. LA Indy, Stafford against Richardson. Stafford looked outstanding, as we know. Richardson looked like shit until the fourth quarter. And, I think he's just running around. And then he threw 2 late touchdowns, which I got to see the replays. But where was he the first 3 quarters? Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Mayfield, Winston. Mayfield, okay. Winston just blows. What's he doing there? I bet they wish they had Andy Dalton. That was a real stupid move, getting rid of Dalton for Winston. Although Hayner is supposed to be, but he's out till week 7, so a couple more weeks, and then you can at least go to Hayner if Carr's not ready. Washington, Philly, Howell and Hurts. Howell, this game was good last week. He had 4 picks. This week he played better. Hurts, okay, nothing special. 34-31. But if we look at Washington's defense, it's a 29. So it's not a big deal that Philly got 34 points against this defense. But this is why we put the numbers down. We think Washington has a good defense and no offense. And that's what's getting us into trouble. We bet that Denver game under. Now, if Washington played Denver, that bet would be an easy over, because we would realize Denver has no defense. Washington's a 29. And apparently Thurston Howell III is okay. And we know Russell Wilson's a good quarterback. His fault they gave up 70 points. Where are we at? Cousins against Young. Cousins, okay, had a decent day. I'm not sure how many catches Jefferson got against Steve Young, and he looked like Steve Young. He pathetic, especially against the Minnesota defense. The only thing worse is if they did that 13 against the Bears. Then it would really be terrible. Pitt and Houston. Pickett sucks. CJ Stroud looks decent. Putting up 30. Again, I got to see, was this they put up 30, or did Pickett throw a couple of pick sixes? Did Stroud have this good game, or what happened in the game? So I got to keep an eye on that. But we know Pickett sucked. Only 6 points on Houston. Houston does not have a good defense. Oakland, O'Connell against Herbert. Herbert looked good. O'Connell, not too bad for his first start. But he's nothing special. New England, Dallas, Jones and Prescott. We know Jones sucks. Prescott's not much better. We know there's 2 defensive touchdowns by Dallas, so it's 24-3, which is actually pretty good against New England. But I don't know what Prescott did in the game. He's okay. He's not a very good quarterback. Arizona, Frisco, Dobbs and Purdy. Purdy looked good. A lot of McCaffrey looked good. Dobbs is looking better than we thought, than he looked at Tennessee last year. I think it's a strange playbook where he's running a lot. So it's not his arm. He's just running. So I don't know. Mahomes and Zach Wilson. Mahomes is Mahomes. He's the best. Zach Wilson is getting better. Again, he played such tough defenses, Buffalo, New England, and Dallas, and you're bitching about him. Let's see anybody else play that schedule. Look at Miami. Look at Tug against Buffalo. He didn't do shit. So it's hard to really measure what he's doing against it. Tonight we got Smith against Jones. It's hilarious. Daniel Jones sucks. I don't know what he's doing in the league. And so of the quarterbacks, if we go down the list, we got Josh Allen, we got Russell Wilson, we've got Burrow, but he's injured. We got Stafford. Cousins, okay. Herbert, yes. Purdy looks good. Mahomes, and then Geno Smith. There is such bad quarterback play, and the league's going to this running type of quarterback, like a Richardson, like Lamar, like Hurts. It doesn't work. It won't work. And you know what it reminds me of? A quick venture into economics. It's like all these countries trying to use Keynesian economics, and it doesn't work, and it never will. And that's why we're all going broke, and that's why we're all being inflated. That's why we need to buy gold. But it's not like they're learning. The only ones that have learned are Russia. They're the only ones that are going to gold because they know gold is the way out, and because they're sanctioned. And if you really dig into it, who sanctioned who here? Did the U.S. sanction Russia, or did Russia ask to be sanctioned? Or what's going on? But the U.S. normally goes to war with anybody who tries the gold standard, and they go kill their enemies that way, and they control the dollar that way. They're a bunch of scumbags. But if you sanction Russia, you give them no choice. By Russia going to the gold standard collapses all these currencies, and there's nothing anybody can do about it because you've sanctioned them. You fucked them, and they're fucking you back where it hurts. Win your dollars. We'll get on to Alligator. I wrote Alligator in the description. He's on back-to-back. He's on Mark McGuire, and then he's on As Good as Gold in the last 2 days. And it's basically the same interview. They ask him similar questions. The CBDC question, which I played, I'll play again, where we know it won't happen because the central banks are not made to be regular banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, and stuff like that. The central bank is the bank for the banks, not the banks for the people. So they're set up to handle, Wells Fargo needs money, or Chase needs money, or JP Morgan needs money, and they control it. And they're not set up for 350 million people, and they'll never be set up for 350 million people. And the banks like the Chase and the JP Morgan and the Wells Fargo are the ones who get these guys elected. So they would not kill themselves by eliminating the banks who got them elected in the first place. So therefore, all the government is elected by the banks. So there's no way the government will throw the banks out. So there will never be a central bank digital currency. Plus, it'll be fiat. It does come out with gold. The U.S. doesn't have gold. So there's going to be this whole move to the Russian, to the gold. And then China and India is all Keynesian. So that's their problem. The Keynesians don't like gold because they can't steal from everybody. The Keynesians are simply communists who want to who think they want to control the economy. And as I've taught, we control the economy. The people control the economy, not the government control the people. And that's what they're trying to do with CBDCs. But we'll get into that in a minute. But I can see how it's like now they're going to these crappy quarterbacks and not going to the better ones. And that's what's happening, sort of like the Keynesians trying to take over from that. So let's quickly look at next week's NFL. I don't have the lines yet. I've got my own lines, and I have to update the overs, the unders, the A's, the Z's, and my points. So I got to update that, but it's only Monday. So the first game Thursday night, Washington at Chicago. It's got to be an over. I mean, Chicago can't stop the win. Washington's not a good defensive team. Thurston Howell and Fields, I mean, they both suck. But we don't know what the over-under is yet. Jacksonville, Buffalo. I got Buffalo -10. And the strange part is this game's in London at 9:30 also, and Jacksonville is staying in London. So they just played Atlanta in London, and now they're staying for another week in London. What the fuck is that? So now Buffalo goes there. Jacksonville has a huge advantage because they're already in London. They're already used to the time change and the flight and everything else. That's the screw up. And then the ironic part is Atlanta plays at home. They're not even getting a bye. So they have to fly to London, fly back, and then they're playing at home against Houston. So look for Buffalo, Jackson. I got Buffalo laying 10. I don't know. This is such a strange thing because it's not a home game for Buffalo. It's a road game for both teams, but Jacksonville's staying there, so they got a huge advantage in this game. Atlanta and Houston. Now we go to the 1:00 games. Atlanta, Houston. I got Atlanta -3. I don't know. Riddler looks like he's terrible. Stroud looks like he's maybe getting a little better. And then we'll have to look at their defenses. I think Atlanta's got a good defense, but Riddler sucks. I don't know what's going on there. Detroit, Carolina. I got Detroit -10. Carolina with Steve Young is not going to do anything against this Detroit defense. We'll see. I got a -10, but who knows what the spread is. Well, we'll know, but I'm not writing it in yet. This is how I like to do it. This is my own line. What do I think? And then we'll plug in the line, and the differences are what we bet. And if it's like the Rams, where they're actually a 7-point favorite, getting a 1.5 from a weak Indy team, and they should have been the favored, and you're making them the dog, that's how we arrive at a lock. So I like Detroit -10. I don't know if they're that good. They've been playing a lot of shit teams. They beat Green Bay. They beat Atlanta. They played one team, Seattle, lost, and they got lucky against KC that it was the first game, and Kelsey was a late scratch 2 days before the game, and they dropped 10 passes. If they play KC, now KC kills them because the Lions secondary is their weakness, but they're not playing a good quarterback. I mean, if you look at who they had trouble with was Seattle. No trouble against Atlanta with no quarterback. No trouble with Green Bay with no quarterback. And I thought they caught him lucky because Adam Jones had a bad hamstring, so he wasn't really 100% and shouldn't have been playing. Indy and Tennessee. I got Indy -3 because the game's at Indy. Again, this is what? Stroud or Richardson? I'm still struggling. This is Richardson. Richardson against Tannehill. It's an even game. I could see Indy being favored over Tennessee more than I could see him being favored over the Rams, but I'm still struggling with Indy being favored. Miami and the Giants. The Giants are terrible. Miami, better at home, better against the weak defense. I think they'll light it up. I got a -10. New England and New Orleans. I got New England -3. We'll see who the quarterback is. Should be Zappy, but Belichick knows everything, so he'll probably go with Jones. New Orleans, you got Winston. You got two terrible quarterbacks here. So it makes it hard to handicap. This is part of the problem. You've got such bad – this is like a horrible league. This is the worst football has ever been in my life, where Unitas and then Stabler, and then you got Montana, and then you got Brady and Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now you got Jones against Winston. It's pathetic. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. Clearly, Baltimore is the better team here with Pickett. Pittsburgh's really fucked. They don't have a quarterback. I got Baltimore -7. Philly and the Rams. This is a nice game. Philly, I got 3. This is at the Rams. Stafford against Hurts. Aaron Donald's going to make a big statement. I got Philly -3, but this is a game I probably like the Rams as a dog. Cincy, Arizona. Now, the way Arizona's playing, I got Cincy -3. I got Burrow hurt. I don't mind playing Arizona here either, provided they're the dog. They might not be, but this is what my spread is. Denver -3 to the Jets. Jets. I love the Jets and getting the points here. Here's where their defense will shut Russell Wilson down, and here's where Wilson will finally look good against the Denver defense. See, this is the whole point. Like the Tigers, they'll have a big game against a pitcher with a 10 ERA, and the announcers can't connect the dots. Well, yeah, they hit a minor league pitcher, but when they play a very good, Gary Cole, they get shut out, but the announcer can't catch that. And that's what you have here. You're looking at Zach Wilson playing fucking Dallas and Buffalo and Kansas City, and now he gets Denver. Now he's going to look like superstar. KC, Minnesota, KC -7. Minnie can't stop the wind. Probably a higher scoring game. KC's defense looked pretty good, so I don't know. Well, it depends what the over-under. If it's in the 50s, I don't know that I'll play it. But KC Mahomes should do whatever he wants. Game of the game of the month, Frisco and Dallas. I got Frisco -3, maybe 6 against Dallas. Big edge to Purdy over Prescott. Very similar defense, but Frisco gives you McCaffrey and Kittle and those, and Dallas doesn't really have that. I mean, Pollard's no McCaffrey, and CD Lamb is no Kittle, and he's no Deebo Samuel. So I give an edge to Frisco at home. It's amazing how these two teams, they played in the 70s in the playoffs. They played in the what did they play in the 80s? They didn't play in the 80s. They played in the 90s or late 80s. And they keep bumping into each other when they're both very good. And then the last game, Oakland and Green Bay, just pathetic. This is the Monday night game. I got Oakland -3. I mean, who knows? Such bad. What do you got? O'Connell against Love. You're gonna get 10 points in the game. Weak defenses. I mean, you've got. This is the problem you're dealing with. You have weak quarterbacks. I mean, you got the worst quarterbacks you could draft. You draft, right? You don't even draft like the best quarterbacks in college. You're not even drafting that. You're drafting terrible quarterbacks. Nobody drafted Purdy till the end. Thompson Robinson, 5th or 6th round. Hayner was late. Stenson Benson didn't. He goes to the Rams. Well, they don't even need a quarterback. They still have Stafford. They'll be set up. But look at Stenson Benson. He gets to sit on the bench and learn from Stafford for another year, maybe 2, and then the Rams are all set for the next 10 years. And that's how it should be. And Hayner's going to walk in at New Orleans, Carr's there a little bit, and then Hayner comes in. And you got teams with quarterbacks that just suck. So this is the problem. Not only do you have bad quarterbacks, you have bad coaches. Oh, look at the Lions. Oh, it's 4th down at our own 10. Let's go for it. Yeah, if we miss, it's probably we're going to give up a touchdown. But you know what? We don't. Maybe the guy doesn't realize that you can punt the ball. Or maybe he thinks he's got the worst defense in the league. I think that's what it is. I think he thinks his defense sucks. So if he punts the ball, the other team will come down and score. So he doesn't want his defense out on the field. So he keeps going for it on 4th down. Because if he had a good defense, you got the steel curtain. Remember that Super Bowl? Dallas-Pittsburgh, the first one. He just ran it in the line on 4th down at their own 45 because he didn't want to risk getting a punt blocked. Because he had like a couple of punts almost got blocked, or the punt. He says the only way we can lose is if we get a punt block. So we're not going to punt, but I have the best defense, and I'm going to go with it. So that's why he didn't. But that was at the 45, not at your own 17. So there's a big handicap in pro football with the coaching being just pathetic. All right, let's look at college. Not a bad week. Pretty good. On the site, I lost a little. My lock lost. So my lock was 2 locks. I have Fresno State with Washington. Fresno State's a push. Washington, I'm winning till the end, and they're only up 14. They got fucked on a fumble at the who was it? Who are they playing? Arizona. The Arizona 2, they fumbled going in. That would have clinched it. And then they get the penalty drive where all these stupid penalties on Washington, and then Arizona scores late to lose by 7. I'm laying 11. So should have been an easy lock. And the Arizona quarterback didn't even play. So I'm betting on, I got the backup quarterback and I got Washington. Hard to believe that didn't win, but that was the lock. Then I had the second lock was Utah under. Once we know Rising's not playing, with the Rams. That wins. And then yesterday, Rams in the prologue with Seattle tonight as the dog, getting 7.5. So that's the thing. Let's go through the games. Let's just go through the meaningful ones. There's just too many. And that's really the problem in college. There's so many games. What do you weed out? What do you pick? And then half your picks win, but which ones do you bet on? And there's just too many to bet on. So I think I'm going to scale down the college a little bit more to like, give me my top 3 plays or my top 4 plays, and then weed out like the Syracuse-Kansas game. I could have weeded out or played Kansas over instead of playing that. Now, I played it small, but that could have been a game I said, well, I don't want to fuck with Clemson. Like Duke. I didn't play Duke, even though I liked Duke, because I was afraid of Hartman. I wasn't afraid of Clemson's. And they fumbled 5 times, Syracuse, or they would have won the game easily. So let's go through this. Western Kentucky 31-10 over Middle Tennessee. I don't really play it. Louisville 13-10 over NC State. I was surprised by that score. I didn't really put any marks as who I liked. I thought Louisville would win. They're the better team. Oregon State, Utah. Once we know Rising's out. My spread was Utah -7, but assuming Rising's playing. So without him, Oregon State's at 3.5. I take the under in the game, 44.5 to 50. It's a lock because this Utah defense is incredible. Oogly Boogly had 2 interceptions, and Utah's quarterback sucks. So of course they'll draft him, right? He'll get in the NFL because he's a running quarterback. So Oregon State wins 21-7. Utah's getting fucked by the doctor not letting Rising play. But with that said, we can take advantage of the under, which is a perfect under. They don't have offense. So that was good. BYU Cincinnati. I like BYU as the home dog. I don't play it because my friend says, well, a lot of the players on BYU were out, but they weren't the key players. There was a linebacker and 2 safeties, but those get rotated in and out, so it's not too bad. And BYU wins 35-27. So that was the first play I was kind of pissed at because I had it right. I had BYU as the dog. Cincinnati's not that strong this year, and BYU wins it, and you could have got 2 points up to 8. Clemson, Syracuse, 31-14. I don't lose it by a lot. I have 12 points. They lose by 17. They fumbled the ball 4 times in the game. It was pathetic. And that's how Clemson won, is they gave them the ball deep in their zone. Otherwise, this game's probably Syracuse victory if they just stop fumbling. I couldn't believe that Syracuse was so petrified because it was Clemson. It was terrible. Terrible coaching. So I lose that game, but I had it kind of right. Yeah, Clemson was flat after the win, but they got all the fumbles. How good is Clemson? They've lost to Duke, and they lost to Florida State. So we don't really know. This doesn't make them look any better because they got the turnovers. So you got to read between the lines and going, how good are they really? USC, Colorado, we like the over, 72.5. It goes 48-41 at 89. Laid away from the 21. I figured I gave you the score, 50-something. I said, all we need is 10. And we got our 50, 48, but they got 41. And they got 14 late in the game. It was like 41-27. And then they go 48-41. So Colorado shows they can still score, and they show how weak USC's defense is. So be warned when USC plays Oregon, Washington, if Rising's back for Utah and UCLA, they might score, but they're going to give up a lot of points. They can be had. So it's a very tough team to bet on is USC. You cannot bet these over teams without a defense to win the game. You can only bet them over. You cannot bet them late 20 and then they win by 5 because their defense gave up 2 late touchdowns, which is what happened here. So, yes, they're just keep them over. Colorado, no defense either. So here was a perfect over versus over, two pretty good quarterbacks. Now the over-under was 72, and they put up an 89, and that's kind of how you look at it. Lou Lafayette, Minnesota. Minnesota is no longer an under. 35-24 against Lou Laf. They're laying 11. Lou Laf's pretty good team, Lou Lafayette, Louisiana. And, over-under was only 48. So I circled the under. I didn't play it because Minnesota seems to be – they gave up a lot to Northwestern. So they are no longer an under team. So you've got to note that. You can't play Minnesota unders. Penn State, Northwestern. I know somebody asked the question about playing Penn State. I talked them out of it. They win by 28, laying 26.5. I wouldn't have played them. Over-under was 47, so they did play a 54. So it was very, they put up a lot, but they're laying a lot. And Northwestern put up 13, I thought would put up more. But Penn State on the road is not Penn State at home. Most of the Big Ten teams are a whole different on the road than at home. Buffalo and Akron, I did have Buffalo as a dog. Akron was a W. Buffalo was an over. Now, I didn't expect a 13-10 game with two over defenses, so that's really confusing. Then you got a question, are they really – what's in the numbers? Did Akron play USC or somebody where they gave up 70 points, which is skewing their over? So you got to look at it. And then you've got to look at it in conference. This is Akron Buffalo, not Akron USC, Akron Oregon or Alabama or somebody like that. So you almost have to redo their rankings by – forget the out of conference. Now, if they played Middle Tennessee and Lou Lafayette, then you keep those. But if you played a high school team in USC, you probably just throw it out and start with, 13-10 against Buffalo. They've got a better defense, and we'll see. Florida, Kentucky, your free pick. I hit under. Florida, good defense. Graham Mertz sucks. Kentucky is an A team, good defense against good defense, so I took it under. I don't like Mertz. 47 was the over-under. I teased it to 53. It ended at 47, 33-14. I know one of my guys was worried, I don't think the under is going to stay, and it's like, just be careful and wait. And so 47 was good. And then A&M Arkansas, that was the other part of the free pick. Arkansas on 12.5. They lose by 12. A little surprising that the backup of A&M was so good, but that's what we learned. And who does A&M have this week? Fucking Ella fucking Bama. So we will see what's going on, but Arkansas surprised me only getting 22. Jefferson surprises me because he's really good, but then makes some stupid turnovers. And again, this is at the Jerry World, not at Arkansas. So 34-21, another winner there, 12.5. Tulane, I have Tulane over with UAB. UAB scored 21 on Georgia, so I said, okay, they can score. Tulane got their quarterback back. I know they can score. It was a low over of 55, and I knew Tulane really lights it up. So they scored 58, 35-23. In a teaser, 55-49. I knew they'd get into the 50s, and they did. So Tulane, a very good team, very good quarterback. James Madison, my other team against South Alabama. James Madison's been outstanding. They're an A team. They get South Alabama, who's an E team, who lost to Tulane, and here they go. And it's lane 2. They win 31-23, James Madison. Over under a 48, which I thought was a little bit low, and they get to 54. So keep your eye on James Madison in conference. Utah State and UConn. UConn's a Z team. Utah State's laying, I think, 4.5 here. I didn't play it. This turns into an over. So UConn, with a weak defense, I got the 34 I was expecting from Utah State, but Utah State gives up 33 to UConn. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'll have to check the quarterback on UConn, like, did they switch quarterbacks? But I did stay away, but UConn is a Z, although now they might not be a Z if they're putting up the Z should not be putting up 33 points. Central and Eastern, I had Central -2.5. They win 26-23. Eastern has not been scoring, but Central doesn't have a defense. It's like the USC game. Central, pretty good offense and no defense, goes to a higher scoring game, and so therefore they can't shut down Eastern. Even though Eastern's got a weak offense, Central's defense can't stop the win. That's why I was shocked in the Notre Dame game that it was 41-17 and not 61-17. So I don't know, because Central still gave up 23 to Eastern. Virginia, BC laying 4.5. An over team plays Virginia, who's a Z team, and it's 27-24 BC. If you took them, you won. I didn't play them. I circled them. Again, this is where how many games do you play? And then BC, 4.5, gets 1.5, wins 27-24 over the Z team. Again, another instance of two bad defenses, but you didn't get a lot of scoring. And then you have the Z team against the over team, and you would have thought BC would have scored more and Virginia would have scored a little less, but we'll see. Miami of Ohio, Kent. I like Miami of Ohio. I didn't play them because Kent is the Z team and Miami is the over team, and this was more what should have happened. 23-3 Miami. They cover the 14. That's exactly, again, betting against the Z team with the over team, and this is what I expect the result. The Z team gets to 3, and Miami of Ohio, I would have expected to get into the 30s, but they get to 23. So that's what you expect, O team against the Z team. Cal and Arizona State got their quarterbacks back. Cal, their runner out, had another big game. Lane 12, they don't cover. Arizona State's a Z team, but I moved them up this week. They played USC pretty well, and now they played a 24-21 with Cal. So they're not a Z team. They're scoring too much. And Cal really does not have a quarterback. They're just a running team. Let's go. Maryland, Indiana, Big Ten. Maryland wins 44-17. Maryland's an A team. Indy's an under team, and that's about the score you expect. Maryland looks pretty good this year. This will be an interesting game. They got Ohio State this week. Michigan, Nebraska. Michigan -11. They win 45-7. Now, I like the under also, which was 46.5. So here's one of the problems. Michigan's up 45-0 with 5 minutes left in the game. Nebraska's at their own 25, and they hand it off, and the guy runs 75 yards for a touchdown. There goes your under. Again, so it's, do I take Michigan -11, which I know they're going to be good, or do I go over under? Here's where the under was too low at 40. So I worried about that, and I said, no, it should be about a 45 or a 50. Then if it was 50, I would have played it under 56. At 40, it's too low. This is Nebraska, not Iowa. So Nebraska went to Heinrich Himmler, their new quarterback, but he didn't do shit. And Michigan scored a little bit more than I thought they would have. But they're an A team, and they play like an A team, so give them credit. You don't really want to bet against Michigan in this situation. Illinois, Purdue. Purdue's a W team, but lit it up 44-19. Illinois does not have the defense, and we saw that in the Kansas game. Kansas lit them up. Purdue lights them up here, 44-19. Let's get to the bigger games. Georgia, Auburn. Have the under in Georgia. I was going to lock it, but I locked it the week before, and they went over. And that's where I get superstitious. So I did not lock Iowa State under, and I did not lock Georgia under because I locked them the week before and lost. But the week before that, I had them locked and won. So I don't like to – if I lose a lock, I don't like to come back with the team, which is wrong because this was a better under than that one. 27-20, 47, over under 45, goes under 51. That's what you expect. Auburn with a pretty good defense, and it was 20-20 late in the game, and Georgia scored and won. I'll tell you, Georgia knows how to win. Now in this situation, they're laying 14.5. I didn't play them. See, when it gets down to it, if you got a decent over under with Georgia, you just play them under. I mean, you don't fuck around with 14, then they're laying 8, and you lost when you should have played it. Now, had Michigan been 45, I would have played it under, and I would have lost, but that would have been a 51. But in this case, 27-20. Auburn's got a tough schedule. They get Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss. Jesus Christ. All right, Kansas, Texas. I get a little unlucky here. The starting quarterback for Kansas gets hurt. He's out, although I don't mind their backup being. Texas runs it down their throats, and Texas wins 40-14 by 26. I have 22.5 or 23, and I have the ball at their 10-yard line with about 5 minutes left, and I go for it on 4th and 6, and I don't get it. So I could have very easily have won, and Kansas has a good offense. I was really shocked by this score. I didn't expect Texas to score 40. Texas really ran a lot. And that sets up this game this week. You've got Texas, Oklahoma. The spread I got on it, they don't have a lot of spreads out. Well, they do now. This was last night at the lake. Texas, Oklahoma, where are they? Texas is 4.5-point favorites, and I don't know what the total is at this point. Oh, yeah, I got the total 64. You got 2 A teams. Now, Oklahoma surprised me in the Iowa State game. I did play that under because Oklahoma's given up 8 points a game and Iowa State 15. We know they're an under team. Iowa State's all of a sudden throwing the ball, and the guy throws 2 pick sixes and a 75-yard touchdown. I can't play an under team if they're going to do. I can play Utah under because they don't do that. But here, this guy's throwing interceptions right and left for pick sixes. You're killing my unders. So this will be an interesting game because you think you got a strong defense in Oklahoma, but I'm not sure. I know I got a strong defense in Texas. They played Alabama 34-24. So I'm going around that score, which is a 58. Gabriel looks really strong for Oklahoma. He's got like 15 touchdowns and no picks. So this will be a very interesting game. So we will see. We'll get to that in a little bit. Houston, Texas Tech. Texas Tech wins 44-28. Gets to be a high-scoring game. I did like the game over. And again, this is a good over team, Texas Tech. You go over. Why don't I play that over? Why do I play the Iowa State, Oklahoma over? Well, the reason, as I said, Oklahoma's given up 8 points a game, so they're theoretically an under team, but they score too much. So this is the lesson learned of today. Even though the team has a great defense, if they have a great offense, you cannot play A's under as much as you can play unders under. Utah's an under. They don't score, and they got this Georgia defense, so it's going to be low scoring. But if you have a team like Oklahoma or Texas who can light it up and has a good defense, you cannot play over-unders on that. You have to play team. So after I'm just saying this, I either got to play Oklahoma in 10.5, and I can't fuck around with the total on it, or I got to go over, even though they both have good defenses, because they both have good offenses that can light it up. You're not going to see a 10-7 game, I wouldn't think. So that's what I'm studying is those do the A teams go over or under? Well, the Florida State Clemson game went over. The Notre Dame Duke game, now that stayed under. The Notre Dame Ohio State game stayed under. So we're confused. Well, wait a minute. Some of them do and some of them don't. So you really got to know the team and the quarterback and everything else. So again, here's Hartman, and it's 21-14 to Duke, and you're just scratching your head going, well, what the fuck? Duke's got a really good defense. So this game, again, so I like Duke in 11.5. I don't play it. It wins. And that's the problem. So I play Syracuse, who fumbles 5 times, and I lose by 2 points. I don't play Duke, and Duke wins. And I knew Notre Dame would be flat. And I don't know if they were flat, but I would think they were not the same as when they played Ohio State. So Duke is a very good team. Don't forget that. So anytime you get them as a dog, play them. They already beat Clemson, and they should have beat Notre Dame here. All right. Surprise game here, Arkansas State, UMass. Arkansas State is a Z team. They're not scoring. They have no defense. They get the UMass, who we need revenge on from the New Mexico State game, and they kill them 52-28 Arkansas State. Did they switch quarterbacks? More than likely, yes. More than likely, that's what happens in college. The team's struggling. They're not scoring. They go to the other kid, and the other kid comes out 52-28, and you're going, why the fuck haven't you been playing this guy? How do you miss that this guy's this good? So anyway, they light it up. Now you got to rethink Arkansas State and say they're not a Z team. Now this with Van Dyke at Miami and Rising at Utah. They switched to them, and then they started lighting it up. Vegas is slow to see it. So Arkansas State, I got to read the box score, might be our play. It might be because they're in the Sun Belt. They're going to play a bunch of shit teams, and might be the play if they're getting points. Hey, the real D. Doing my homework. Yeah, I do my homework every day. I was doing it yesterday. Always do it. There's always box scores to look at and stats to. You're trying to look into the future, and you got to look at what's going on. So yeah, I always do my homework. Baylor UCF, quarterback plays for Baylor. They win 36-35. That's the difference. Their starter got healthy. He hurt his knee. That's why I always look at Rising. If Rising's playing, Utah wins that game by 30 points. He doesn't play, they lose. They can't score. Baylor was running into the same thing, but he's back. So now Baylor is a very good team, even though their stats won't show it. UCF has their backup quarterback who's fine. So they're both pretty good teams. See here, UCF I have as an under, but Baylor puts up 36 on it. So again, be leery of how even though you grade a team an under or an over, it's always the matchup in the game they're playing that you must try to figure out, even though, well, they're an under, they don't score, as I told you in the Oklahoma Iowa State game, where you're sitting there going, it's an under because Oklahoma gives up 8 points a game. And even here, Iowa, who can't score, puts up 20. So I'm sure Texas is going to put up 20. So we'll keep that an eye when we get to it. Hawaii, Vegas, I like the over in this. This was an automatic. We know neither team's got a defense. Both teams can score. Vegas switched quarterbacks. Brumfeld got hurt. Maeva. 44-20 Vegas, a 64. The over-under was 58, down to 52. That was one of the easier picks I had because I know Hawaii, I've got in my mind, they're scoring this year and they have no defense. But against a team like Vegas, who can score, this should be a high-scoring one. So that's where it works when these are kind of easier than like the USC Colorado one because I know what I've got here. I know Hawaii's going to score, and they can't stop a high school team. And the same thing with Vegas. I know they're going to light it up. Let's go. Boise, Memphis. A good Memphis is an A team. Boise's an over team. 35-32 Memphis wins. But as you can see, again, Memphis is an under team, gives up 32 to Boise. So don't get too caught up. We know we need a way of calculating. And like Michigan's an under team, and Iowa's an under team, and Georgia's an under team are a whole different. We know they're stud defenses. When you look at Memphis, even though they might have a stud defense, it's just not the same as Georgia's unless you can find it. That's why we're always looking for that superstar defense or the superstar offense. So like USC, we know is going to light it up. If USC is playing Oklahoma or Texas, I'm not worried about them scoring. It won't matter. They're going to light them up no matter, the only one that maybe they can't light up is Georgia because Georgia's defense gets to the quarterback like the Tennessee game, right? They play Alabama 52-49, and then they get 12 points on Georgia, and it just because they can pressure the quarterback very quickly. Georgia's the exception, where USC would not light up Georgia, but they would light up probably Michigan and probably Oklahoma and Texas. LSU, Ole Miss. Bobby's got to get off of LSU. I like this game over 67. They score 104 points. LSU's up 49-42 late in the game, and then Mississippi scores 2 late touchdowns and wins by 6. This is the problem with Bobby with the money line, and this is the problem with understanding the road favorites are tough. Ole Miss is an A team, and LSU is an A team with a little weaker defense. They're now an over team. They're not an A team anymore. I looked at my stats. I did my stats last night watching the game. Good game. Jets. Jets. Don't fuck with me on the Jets. LSU, again, lane 2.5. I would never have played them. I thought I didn't like Ole Miss after the Alabama game. But if you think about it, they lost to Alabama. They came on strong. And once you play Alabama, playing LSU is a picnic. Playing anybody's a picnic against that defense. So I think Alabama's defense is coming. Could be one of those defenses I'm talking about. So Ole Miss in a shootout, LSU, very high-scoring team. So they're a good over against everybody but Georgia, and probably not against Alabama. Alabama's an under team this year because of the quarterback. So LSU 55-49 to Ole Miss. Oregon, Stanford, I have Oregon. They're laying 27. I cut them to 21. Stanford is the Z team in the Pac-10. So all these explosive teams, when they play Stanford, I'm betting against. And they win 42-6, just what I did. And then the question is, why didn't I lock fucking Oregon instead of locking fucking Washington? And the reason is Washington. Well, the reason was twofold. Oregon had just played Colorado, and the game was at Stanford, who was a rival, and Arizona's quarterback was out. So I'm playing Washington against Arizona. I'm only laying 11, and they don't have their quarterback. Their backup looked really good, but again, that's why, and that just frustrates you because Oregon was a good pick, and they win, and the lock would have won. So pisses me off. Oklahoma 50-20 over Iowa State. Where in God's name they got 50? Like I said, a couple of pick sixes off of Iowa State. In Oklahoma, Gabriel had a good game, and now they got Texas. And you're not going to see 50-20, but I think they're a very live dog here against Texas. Both teams have good defenses. Texas wants to run the ball. I mean, this is where I like taking the dog in these tight games. Now, the question is, should I take the dog? The question is, should I play the game? Usually I'll try to play it over or under. In this case, you got two strong defenses, two strong offenses. I don't know what the fuck to do with the game. It'll hit me, but basically in this situation, I got the better quarterback is Oklahoma, it's Gabriel. The better defense, I think, is Texas. So I got to relook at the numbers. And Texas beat Alabama. So with that said, this is but I think Oklahoma is much better than Alabama because they actually have a quarterback, a very good quarterback. So I think this will be back and forth. I can easily Oklahoma, like I said, 49-0 last year because the quarterback was out or got hurt, and they got blood in their eyes on that one. Now, we did the same thing with Ohio State, Michigan last year. Ohio State lost, blood in their eyes. Michigan killed them again. So this is where revenge doesn't always work, but you have to look at it. So I'm thinking of the dog in the game. The 64 over-under is a joke. It's way too high. But we'll see. But I don't know. This is a very explosive type of game. So I think Oklahoma can win it. Therefore, I like the dog. Even though Texas beat Alabama, Think about it. They got 3 turnovers because Milrose doesn't know he's colorblind. He doesn't know what team to throw it to. You're not getting that with Gabriel. You're getting a senior. So Texas isn't going to get all these interceptions. So this will be a very interesting game. Texas State, Southern Miss. Southern Miss, the Z team. Texas State, an over team. They beat them 50-36. Lane 6 at Southern Miss. Take that into consideration. File Texas State, strong offense, and you file Southern Miss as a weak defense. Now, this is what gets you 50-36. The over-under was 60. Why didn't I lock this over? I mean, now it's obviously easier after the game. Now I can just put my Bernie Madoff hat on. Oh, well, after the game, 60, yeah, you go over. They scored 86 points. But this is where you must think. Texas State puts up a 50 on them. Did you think that was going to happen? And then Southern Miss is a W team. They don't score that much. So did I think they'd get 36? That's the problem. Now, Texas State's the team that beat Baylor. So I like Texas State in the game. So I could have had Texas State even. Should I have locked Texas State even? Yes, of course. But you've got to do it before the game, not after. But these are the games that you should be locking versus some of these other teams. Like you're going more to the big teams, but this is a perfect game. Texas State even over Southern Miss all day. They're going to win. Again, they beat Baylor, so they're not a bad team. So these are the games that you got to focus more on. Georgia Southern beats Coastal Carolina 38-28. McCall's having a terrible season. New coach has screwed him up, but he's a much better quarterback than this. Georgia State loses to Troy. Very interesting. We all love Georgia State. They don't show up. They lose 27-7 to an over team. Troy does not have a good defense. Georgia State's the A team, and they lose 27-7. Very strange score. Not what I expected. Notre Dame Duke, we talked about. Notre Dame 21-14, Lane 6. Duke and the teaser is good. I didn't play the game. Over-under was 57. In this game, I had I circled the under. Didn't play it, but again, it was a good Duke's got a very good defense, as does Notre Dame, as they showed against Ohio State. Michigan State, Iowa. I have Iowa -5. They win 26-16. Michigan State's terrible. Iowa loses their quarterback in the first quarter. McNamara from Michigan, he's gone. He, I don't know, broke his leg or something, or his knee. But they win 26-16. Now, it's funny is the over-under was 36, and they put up a 42. So it's kind of you would have won by a half. But, again, they made it so low, and Michigan State does not have a good defense that I couldn't play it. If this is a 50, it's an under. Any Iowa game in the 50s and under. But you don't get them. Most of the Iowa games are in the upper 30s, but Iowa's scoring. They scored 26 in this game. And that's the problem. You think they're an under, but then they're scoring in the 20s and really fucking the unders that are 38s and stuff. Tennessee beat South Carolina 41-20. I like Tennessee. Laying 11.5 at home. They're an explosive team. Laying 5.5 would have won. It won. I didn't play it. Again, I liked so many games. How do I pick? Why didn't I pick the Tennessee versus the Oklahoma under? Well, I went too wide, but that's what gets frustrating to me. SMU beats Charlotte 34-26, Lane 22. So they cover barely, winning by 18. You would have laid 16. SMU's not scoring the way they should, and Charlotte does not look very good. West Virginia, TCU, big upset for West Virginia, 24-21. They've got a good defense, and they're playing like they have a good defense. And TCU is explosive, but they're not. They scored only 21 in the game. So TCU is not the same TCU last year, which we know. And West Virginia is a very strong defensive team. My Air Force, they just killed San Diego State, 49-10, laying the 10. You cut it to 4. I picked it. I didn't play it. Go back to the tapes. You'll hear me taking it. 4.5. Over under 43. They put up 49. Again, this Air Force team is very strong. They don't throw the ball, but apparently they can't. You can't stop their quarterback. He's a very strong quarterback. So San Diego State's not the strong defensive team they normally are. Now they're like almost an over team or a W. I have them as a W. They got burned by UCLA 33-10. They're not scoring, and their defense is not as strong as normal. Lumon and App State. Lumon as a U team. Okay. App State's an over. Lou Monroe supposedly an under. 41-40 App State. The line was 13.5. So I liked App State, didn't play him again. And they were, I don't know, where did Lou Monroe get the 40? And that's what we did. Did they quarterback change? So this is where you've got to be cognizant of the quarterback change. Did something, what changed? Why did they score 40? They don't score 40 on anybody. So you got to look at that. 81. They played an 81. Their over-under was 51. Alabama, Old Mississippi State. I liked Alabama. Didn't play them. Don't know why I didn't play them. I liked them. Laying 14.5. They win 40-17. Milrose, he still sucks, but he's running a lot. And their defense looks good. Alabama's playing strong defense. An easy win for them, 40-17. Washington, Arizona, my lock. I take Washington minus 17 down to 6, down to 11. I'm winning the whole game, 31-17 late, and I get all these penalties against me and the 31-24 final. Unfortunately, I fumbled the ball at the 2-yard line just before, which would have made it a lock. They would have been up 21. They give up the late touchdown. They win by 14. So it kind of sucks. They should have won it. They dominated the game, really. But they don't get it. Again, Arizona, the bet was predicated. The quarterback was out. He didn't play. So the Toluca didn't play. They held them. It should have been like 38 and then probably the 7. But, again, why didn't I go to the Oregon with the lock? It's the same game, Oregon-Stanford, only Stanford's worse than Arizona, but without the starting quarterback, I don't know what Arizona's got. So the backup played pretty well. And the last one, Nevada and Fresno State. I got Fresno State laying 18. They win by 18. It's a push on the lock, 27-9. Nevada's the Z team. Fresno's the A team. I'm shocked that Fresno only got 24. Now, the real shocker of the game is it's 27-0 with 5 minutes left. So even if I give up the bullshit touchdown, it's 27-7. They win by 20. I'm laying 18. What happens? They take a safety. It's 27-2, which now fucks me. And then with like a minute left, Nevada scores the meaningless 27-9. They go for the extra point, not for 2 like everybody does. And so I get a push on what should have been an easy win. How they held them to 27 doesn't make any sense. You've got a strong Fresno State team against the terrible Nevada team. And this is the second time Nevada now I think where I'm screwed is Nevada played USC and lost 63-7. So it makes them look like a Z team. It looks like they have an over defense, but they don't. So I'm expecting bigger scores, but I'm skewed by the USC game. And this is the problem in college. My method works perfect in the pros. As I showed you, I ran the table on the pros. We're waiting for Seattle tonight to complete the dessert. But as you can see, my theory is to bet against the Z team, but is Nevada a Z team? Well, you can't throw out the USC game. It's not a high school game. It's a real game. So you don't throw it out. So what do you do with Nevada? Because clearly Now you have to now look at the Kansas game and the Fresno State game and go, they're not really a Z. They'll give up about 30 and they still don't score. So they're kind of like a W, let's say. They don't quite give up what you think they give up because USC put up 63 on them. Kenny, Cam Ward is the best quarterback in the nation, is the Heisman frontrunner. Let's go Washington State. Okay, I will not refute that. He's not the best, but we'll go with that. I'm not out to he's a basketball player that is playing quarterback. So his reads aren't that, he's like Charlie Ward. So his reads aren't that great. He makes mistakes. He's fast, so he does run. And now to your point, so that was college. So I did pretty well. On the side, I was almost a break even, except for I lost the Oklahoma under hurt me. And then missing the Washington game hurt me. But we picked up the Utah under, which helps. Washington State this week. So we looked at the pros. I don't have the line. I'm not going to walk through the lines. Superficially, if we go down the games, you got 2 games Wednesday, 2 Conference USA teams, and then we got Thursday, Sam Houston, Liberty. I really like Liberty. They got the Coastal Carolina Coast. They've been lighting it up, 40 a game. We got to see what the point spread is. We got Western Kentucky LT. And then Friday, we've got Kansas State, Oak State. We've got Nebraska, Illinois. Kind of a shitty game. And then you get into Saturday. So we got LSU, Missouri. We know Bobby will be on LSU again. Maryland, Ohio State. Ohio State's not scoring. I don't know if I want to go under in the game. Maryland is not a great defensive team. But if Ohio State's defense is as good as it looked against Notre Dame, Maryland ain't scoring shit. We've got Rutgers at Wisconsin. Not sure how good Wisconsin is. Oklahoma, Texas. We got Texas 4.5, 64, which is last night's line. I would expect the 64 to come down to 60. Texas 4.5. That probably goes down to a field goal, my guess. I just like the dog in the game. It's A against A. And Texas is not better than Oklahoma. They beat Alabama with a bad quarterback. You got Gabriel in this. There's revenge, 49-0 Oklahoma. So I like the dog in the game as of now. I got to check injuries, but I think that's a dog game. BC against my Army. Go Army, beat Navy. Let's see. Marshall, NC State's a good under game. Now, again, I don't have the lines, so just superficially. CMU against Buffalo should be high scoring. They both can score. Okay, so we've got, Kenny, we've got Washington State at UCLA. UCLA laying 4. Very interesting game here. Washington State's very good. I had them against Oregon State. They were at home as a dog. Now you got them on the road as a dog. UCLA's got the new freshman quarterback, and they got a pretty damn good defense. Washington State, I'm not sure how strong their defense is. Cam Ward has 1,400 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Washington State's 4-0 with 2 big wins against ranked top 25 teams, only quarterback in the Pac-12 to beat 2 ranked teams so far. What did they beat? Oregon State, and who was the other team? Wisconsin. Well, they beat them both as home dogs. Now let's see what happens after UCLA, who isn't as strong offensively, but has a real strong defense. So let's see how Washington State goes on the road, plays on grass, in the Rose Bowl. Now, UCLA is not as strong as last year with Thompson Robinson. So, um, to your point, Utah doesn't have Cam Rising, who's better than him, and then Penix, and who have they played to? We'll look at your assumption at the end of the year, right? When Washington's played Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State's played Washington and Oregon, and now they got UCLA. And if Rising gets back, and then USC will lose, but and their offense is gimmicky, where Washington State's not. Now I understand what you're saying, 14-0. The Wisconsin game, I don't know. Wisconsin's really a top 25 team, but that's the ironic part of it. If Washington State beats Wisconsin, then they go down in the standings. You're like, but that doesn't make sense. If Washington State's like a top 10 team, and Wisconsin's a top 10, let's say they're number 10, and Washington State's 15, and Washington State beats them, all of a sudden Wisconsin's not 10 anymore. What the fuck? No, if they were 10 before, they're still like a top 10 team. So that's what I don't get about this ranking. As soon as you beat them, then they're not good anymore. So they were good before the game. So if one plays two, and one of them, let's say 2 wins, then one's not the best team anymore. 2 is. So where does 1 go? I mean, you still had 1 ahead of 3, 4, and 5. So they still should be ahead of 3, 4, 5. They played 2, like Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, in these big games. So we'll see after this game. Washington State in 10. UCLA's got a very tough defense. So if he gets out of this game with no interceptions and 4 touchdowns, and they can beat UCLA, then that'll help. But really, the game I want to see him is against Utah if Rising's bad. Then if he's 24-0 and they beat Utah, then I'll be right with you. That's the game if they play. I don't know if they play. Again, they played 2 or 3 from the other division, and they're in the Oregon Washington division, not where Utah and Colorado is. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not in Rising's and Penix and Bo Nix's class, that's for sure. But he's a point guard basically, so he's learning. So put it this way, he's better than half the NFL. I'd rather have him than Pickett or Fields or Bryce Young, or we can go on and on, or the O'Connell at the Raiders. I'd rather have Cam Ward. I mean, that's the NFL is so bad. Oh my God. So this will be an interesting game. UCLA 4 against Washington State. Clemson, Wake Forest. Clemson, we'll see. Now they beat Syracuse on 5 fumbles. They should beat Wake Forest. VTech, Florida State, another interesting game. Another A team going against an E team. North Carolina, Syracuse. I got a 6.5 on North Carolina. I love Syracuse if they're getting 6.5. They had the big game. They fumbled 5 times. I think now they got that out of their system. Look for them to be better against North Carolina. North Carolina's not that good. We've got Texas State against Lou Lafayette. Texas State, explosive, beat Baylor. Wishapen against Lou Lafayette, explosive. This is what we want to see in the 50s. It'll probably be 65, but if this is a 55, this could be a lock with the way Texas State scores. Then I got 4 MAC games. So the Ball State EMU game, the Ball State's a Z team and EMU's a U. And then Kent and Ohio, Kent's a Z team, but again, they're playing an under team in Ohio who doesn't score. Now, again, I know one of these played Michigan, I think Ball State or Georgia or somebody. And, so it makes them, they lose 62-0. they're going to look like a Z team. But this is a MAC game, so we've got to throw out the high school game, throw out the Michigan game. What are they doing against these type of opponents? That's what you have to dig into to get the true nature of the team, because you can't lose to Georgia 62-0 and well, they're a Z team. Oh, who beats Georgia? Nobody beats Georgia. Kenny, college football is amazing this year. Oh, the Pac-12 is just over. It's over city. Yeah, it's the best conference. It's weird that they're breaking up. Looks like they got mismanaged, and really it's about these TV contracts. But the TV is ruining the sport, because now you go to 5-6 minute commercials and they kick off in commercials. There's an injury commercials, instant replay commercials. Why is instant replay even in there? They should not have instant replay. Instant replay makes no sense. You have a ref. The ref sees the play. The guy's inbounds or out of bounds. The ref's calling it at normal speed. So how the hell do you slow it down frame by frame to make the ref look bad, to change the call, to waste time because it's taking 5 minutes to see something that should take 5 seconds, and then you're switching the clock back? Who gives a fuck? The ref's there. He makes the call. It's a catch. It's a catch. Move on. It's not a catch. Not a catch. Move on. I remember the Penn State-Nebraska game, and I think it was the 70s. I think it was the late 70s, and Nebraska made a catch. The guy was clearly out of bounds when they did a slow motion, but the ref called him inbounds. I think the game was at Penn State, and I think Penn State made the catch. And and then Penn State wins the game, and the call should have been reversed, but the ref called him inbounds. And the problem was he caught the ball, but his foot left the ground and his next foot was out of bounds, but the ref called that foot that was up inbounds, and that was the play. So, but I remember that, but who cares? The ref made the call. Move on. This is just destroying the game. This TV and all the advertising that nobody wants to see. I go on YouTube, and that's why you don't see commercials in mine, because I'm not interested in fucking up the class by having commercials if you're watching the replay. So I just mute them. Most of them are like, you can skip in 5 seconds. Some of them lately have been 30 seconds and you can't skip. I just mute it. And I kind of look up, okay, look at the phone. Okay, yeah, okay, it says 5 seconds left. I unmute it. But I don't pay any attention to the commercials. I don't give a fuck. All right, Alabama A&M. Alabama's laying 7.5, over under of 54. You got Alabama with this tough defense. A&M, their backup lit up Arkansas. Okay. Now I thought A&M was going to win this game. I'm not sold on Alabama's quarterback. We will see. Now the fact that A&M just played Arkansas, they're playing the same quarterback in Milrose. So this would be very interesting to see what Alabama does. Now, they played Ole Miss 24-10. You can't really look at Old Mississippi State. So it should be in that neighborhood. Is A&M a live dog here? I don't know. I think 54, is it an over or an under? I don't know. I got to think more. So what I'm thinking is, can Alabama move the ball in A&M? For that, I got to watch the A&M Arkansas highlights and see what the fuck happened. Can A&M move on Alabama? It's another. They can. Texas did it with long passing, which A&M can do, but A&M's quarterback broke his ankle, which is why I liked Arkansas, and the backup looked fine. Hey, Eric, good afternoon. Kenny, can Brock Bowers have a chance at the Heisman? Well, put it this way. Brock Bowers is the best player in college football. Are they going to give it to a tight end from Georgia is a good question. Probably. Does it go to Caleb Williams? Does it go to Deion Sanders? He is the best player. He should be the number one draft pick. Don't forget, he's really a wide receiver playing tight end on the best team for the last 2 years. So he should be a top five. Now, here's where, okay, you've got like Carolina, who's probably not going to win a game, gets the number one pick, and they got Steve Young. What do they do with them? They could draft Brock Bowers to go help Steve Young versus the Bears they're not gonna fuck up like they did last year and keep Fields. So they'll get rid of Fields, so then they'll need a quarterback. So what'll happen is, who are these other terrible teams? Houston could use them. I'm not sure. Indy could use them, but I don't know where they're going to draft. But Arizona's actually playing very well. The Giants could use him. So he should be a top 5 pick. I would certainly draft him if I had the quarterback. If I need a quarterback, it's Hartman, it's Van Dyke, it's Rising, it's Caleb Williams. I'm not sold on, only because they run that gimmick offense. And therefore, I don't really know if he's any good or not, looking at Jalen Hurts and looking at Mayfield and looking at Kyler Murray. None of them are really any good. So everybody thought, how good is Kyler Murray? Well, is he really that good? Is Baker Mayfield, he switches teams every year. Is he that good? No, it was a good system. It's like the Alabama quarterback, Mac Jones. Oh, he's good. Yeah, really? Tug, he's good. Well, really? Not in the big game, he's not. So that's really where it gets you is Alabama, Ohio State. Fields looks great in college, but no Ohio State quarterback's any good. So it really becomes that. That's why I like Rising and Van Dyke, because they're not in systems. They're just damn good quarterbacks. Penix has a help with the coach. Bo Nix looks very good. Ward, I'm not sold on, and he's got to learn more. He'll be like Charlie Ward. He'll be the best point guard in New York. Was Charlie Ward. So I don't know, but I would any decent team. I mean, if he falls to Cincinnati, it'd be amazing. But yeah, I would grab him in the first 5. But he should be the Heisman Trophy winner. Let's just say he's the best player in college football. I'll put it that way. Is Deion Sanders' son a real contender for Heisman? Only in fantasy land, not in the real world. First of all, now he's lost 2 games. Did Caleb Williams outplay him? Possibly, probably. He's, if he was, for him to win, they'd have to go undefeated. They would have had to beat Oregon. How do you give it to him? They got shut out by Oregon, and Bo Nix outplayed him by a mile. Caleb Williams outplayed him by a mile this week. So that's how they vote now, right? It's not like when Paul Hornung won it in the 50s when they went 3-9, but he was the best player. Can he beat out Brock Bowers, though? Brock Bowers is much better. And they're going to lose 6-7 games. So it makes it a difficult, because they're looking at record. Well, we're going to take it'll be a guy on, Georgia, a guy on Alabama, a guy on, if Texas were to go undefeated, then Ewers would win it. Or if Oklahoma goes undefeated, Dylan Gabriel will win it. And it's such bullshit. But since Colorado's lost 2 games, they're going to lose 2 or 3 more. They still got to play Utah, and they got to play USC. They played USC. They got to play UCLA. They got to play Utah. Good luck with that, because he ain't going to do shit against Utah, right? It's going to be like Oregon, where he gets shut out. He can't have those games when the Heisman. Now, he's a good player in college football. Is he the best? Brock Bowers is much better than him. Maybe next year, but it's because it's Deion's son, then he's the best player. I mean, that's bullshit. But so I don't see how it can possibly be. Is he a good? Basically, the question you're asking, is he a good quarterback? I'm going to say I don't know. We got to see. Again, a good quarterback would not have got shut out by Oregon. So you'll see when Washington plays Oregon. You look at Michael Penix. That's a good quarterback. So you'll see what he does. That game will be 38-37. That's what a good quarterback does against Oregon. And he just didn't show up in the game. So that's where I'm at. Anyway, so Alabama, and you would think Alabama can win just because the defense, although I don't like the quarterback, but I got to see A&M's defense. They lost to Miami. And Alabama, they get that blood in their eyes when they lose the game to Texas. So I think Texas is a lot better than A&M. So I got to believe Alabama -1 has got to be a pretty good bet there. UCF and Kansas. Kansas is 3.5. I don't know the total yet. Kansas is back to an over team. They got a pretty good defense. UCF's on their backup quarterback who looked pretty good. I think this just goes over. Vanderbilt, Florida, I don't know. Florida, their quarterback sucks from Wisconsin. He sucked at Wisconsin. Why would you think he's any good? I don't get that. Let's see. Connecticut, Rice, kind of like Rice. I don't know. Again, I don't have a spread. Rice is an over team. I like their quarterback. He was the USC quarterback and the Georgia quarterback, but he couldn't make it. He wasn't that good. Now he's at Rice where he's looking good. UConn's a Z team, so I think this is, if we can get Rice under a touchdown, it should be good. Colorado. So here you go. Prime 4 over Arizona State, who's a Z team. So does Prime Jr. want to be a Heisman? Well, he's got to light up Arizona State the way Caleb Williams and Penix and if Cam Rising ever can play, how they would do it. And that's really what it is. So they're only laying 4 over under 63, which seems very high for an Arizona State game. Keep in mind, Colorado does not have a defense, and the Arizona State is starting to play better. They put up 24 or 28 on USC, who's a very similar team to Colorado. They don't have a defense either. So these are over teams, but Arizona State can be an over team if they start scoring. So right now, maybe they're a Z, maybe they're a W, but they're not scoring. So Colorado should have a field day because Arizona State's defense sucks, but we'll see. Georgia, 23.5 over Kentucky. Both teams are A. Kentucky just beat Florida. I don't think they played Tennessee yet. Over under 47.5. We'll see. Georgia under in the 50s. You just go with it. Kentucky's got a very good defense. Georgia's been 27-20 to Auburn. I would expect somewhere in that neighborhood, which is probably where they got the 47 from. Tough one to call. Kenny, Cam Wood put up 38 and 404, 85, and 4 touchdowns against the best defense in the Pac-12. They're not the best defense in the Pac-12. Utah's the best defense in the Pac-12, followed closely by USC or UCLA, and Oregon and Washington's defenses aren't too bad. So Oregon State had a great defense last year. You can't say they're the best defense, and it was 37-34. Now, if he can put up 37 points on Utah, I will back you right there. That ain't going to happen. So do they play Utah is the question. Let's see. Let's go to Washington State. Now, I'm not saying I don't like Cam Ward, but, we got to understand Utah's got the best defense. It's second to Georgia's in the country. So let's see. Wash State. All right. Wash State has got to play. So they beat Wisconsin, give you credit. They beat Oregon State both at home. They go at UCLA. They go at Oregon. Then they go at Washington. So they got three pretty big ats. They got lucky and they get Colorado where he should light it up. That should be a big over. Big test against Washington. They beat them last year. They get lucky at Arizona State, a home against Stanford and at Cal. That should be 3 wins. The game at Arizona's at home should help. So really, we got UCLA, very good defense. They probably will win, but not sure. At Oregon. So we'll talk after at Oregon. Then you can talk to me about him. That's the test. Otherwise, there's nothing. There's really nothing we can say until that game. People are sold on Colorado. I have a $500 bet. Colorado doesn't win 8 games with my brother. Now let's look at them. We'll walk through there, Scott. What have they won? 2? So let's go through that. Colorado. All right. See how many. They beat TCU, beat Nebraska, beat Colorado State. So that's 3. Lose to Oregon and USC. At Arizona State will be a tough game for them. But let's say they win. That's 4. They beat Stanford's 5. At UCLA, no chance. Home against Oregon State, no chance. Arizona, they should win. At Washington State and at Utah. Hopefully Rising's back by then. They're not going to do anything against Washington State and Utah. So that gives them 1, 2, 3 wins. Maybe Arizona State's 4. Stanford 5. Arizona maybe is 6. So the best they're going to do is 6 wins. Yeah, I don't see how they can win 8. I can't find 2 other. Maybe at Utah if Rising doesn't play, but they're not going to score 10 points in that game. Washington State, no chance. Oregon State, no chance. UCLA, very unlikely. They got a strong monster defense. Stanford's the Z team. And this week it's at Arizona State, which maybe they win. I'm giving them the win, but I don't think they can go to Arizona State and just crush them. Arizona State, going to the desert's always a little bit of a problem, especially Colorado people. Thanks. I say they will be 6-6 at the best. Well, yeah, if they get by Arizona State, if they get by Stanford, well, they should get by Stanford, but look at them against Nebraska. They struggle against Nebraska. They have no chance against Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, and what do they got? So they got, Oregon State and Washington State. They got no chance. Utah, no chance. UCLA, no chance. So it gives them Arizona State, Stanford, and Arizona. And I don't know if Arizona's quarterback's back, that'll be a high-scoring game. But again, going to the Arizona game is at home, and they're at Arizona State. So the Arizona game, maybe, but Arizona is not that bad. I mean, so they don't really have – I think Stanford's the only – it's a W. Even Cal, they got to play Cal. Well, they don't play Cal. So their crossover games, Oregon State, Washington State, and USC. No, USC's there. So their crossovers, Oregon State and Washington State. Oh, and Stanford. Those are the 3 they play on the other side. Not easy. Although they avoided Washington and they played Oregon. So not easy crossover. They avoid Washington, but they get Washington State and Oregon State. Yeah, I mean, that's about it. They don't have a defense. Their best player's out. And, it's not like they don't see passing in the Pac-10. Nobody else, like USC doesn't throw the ball there. So it's not like, what's this? It's like, another team that throws the ball. Like USC, Washington, Utah with Rising, Oregon State, Washington State, they all – and usually have monster defenses. Like, they have no chance against Washington State. So Georgia, we're talking 23 and 47.5. See, it's hard to play Georgia lane 23 because they don't score. That's why they're a beautiful under. And you're lucky to get first downs against her. I don't know how Auburn got 20 points. Probably a trick play or a punt return or a pick six or something weird. Beck looks okay for Georgia. He's new, so it's really hard to lay 20. I'd almost take Kentucky in 29, but I have a thing about betting against teams like Georgia. I'll lose, if I lose with Duke or Kansas against Texas. Okay, I mean, like, if I play Oklahoma against Texas, if I play the dog and I lose, okay, I had Oklahoma, I lost. But I ain't fucking with Georgia. I'll never fuck with Georgia. It's either under or just let it go. This is an under game. Michigan against Minnesota. Minnesota is an under. Michigan's the A team, obviously. Michigan puts you to sleep. Minnesota's quarterback sucks. He's thrown like 9 interceptions already. Michigan 15. I don't know. Is that a high number? The game's at Minnesota. The battle for the big brown jug. I don't know. Superficially, it's hard to take. Well, Michigan will probably do their 40-7. I mean, just like clockwork. They haven't played anybody. So their first test comes against Penn State, and then they get Ohio State, and then they can lose to Georgia in the playoff if they beat those two teams. I don't know. The Penn State game, I believe, is at Penn State. Good luck. But I don't know how strong Penn State is. They look pretty good, but I don't know if they're ready for Michigan. This will be cute. The Michigan-Penn State game, I believe, is at Penn State. Normally, you play the home team. Penn State, Ohio State, you play the home team. Michigan, Penn State, you play the home team. Michigan, I think, beat them like 44-10 last year. But I remember having a lock when Barkley was on Penn State. The game was at Penn State, and I locked Penn State big. And Barkley runs the opening kickoff back for a touchdown and another one. And before I knew it was 35-0, and they just blew him out. And that's one of the few rare times I will bet against Michigan, but I had Barkley. It's a homer series, so it's at Penn State, I believe. Be careful. Kenny. Penix, Schroeder Sandwich, Caleb Williams, and Kim Ward are the top 4 quarterbacks in passing yards. Rising is injured, and UCLA's quarterback graduated, and you don't have Bo Nix up there. But, Caleb Williams beat Nevada 73-0, so it's hard to count that. He had a good game against Arizona State. And then they played a 1,000-point game with Colorado. So these are meaningless until, like I said, if Caleb Williams is going to lose to Utah, probably. Not sure if he can beat UCLA, but they don't have much of a quarterback. And then I don't know their schedule. But Penix has to play Oregon. We'll see. And Cam Ward has to play both Oregon and Washington. So we will see. I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't think he's in their league. But that's okay. Keep betting Washington State. He beat Oregon State, but again, they've won at home. Wisconsin and he had a good touchdown at the end of the Wisconsin game. It was getting really close, or it was tied, or a 2-point game. And then he did a lot of running in that game where he goes back to pass and ran for the 10 yards, and that's how they scored that late touchdown. Bo Nix in Oregon has the best defense out of the group so far. They can kill Oregon. Oregon is dangerous. So is Washington. And then Utah, if they ever get Cam Rising back, is the best team in the conference. So they got the best defense. UCLA's defense is very good. That's what stops USC. They don't have a defense. So when they get up against Utah and UCLA and Oregon, they're fucked because they can't stop the win, and these guys can score. So we will see. Arkansas against Ole Miss, interesting game. I got Ole Miss 9.5. Again, I don't know how strong Arkansas is. I like Jefferson, but I don't know. Oh, it's at Ole Miss. Notre Dame 6.5 over Louisville. Here's where an over under of 56. They're both A teams. You got to analyze that. Georgia Tech, Miami. We got Van Dyke this week. I'm so excited. Miami's the A team. They beat A&M, which looks very good now that A&M just beat Arkansas. And especially if A&M beats Alabama, then the Miami team will look really good. Georgia Tech's just an over team. But I think they lost last week. Georgia Tech, yeah, they lost to Bowling Green. Does that even make sense? 38-27. So I think this will be an over. I think Miami puts up a 50 on them. TCU, Iowa State. I don't know what Iowa State is now. I don't ever remember Iowa State giving up 60 points. So I'm very confused by them. Texas Tech and Baylor should be high scoring. We know Texas Tech. Baylor's quarterback's back. Fresno State, Wyoming, very interesting game. I see Fresno State -3. Seems like a low number for Mikey Keene and the Bulldogs. Although Wyoming's playing, they're scoring, so they're not playing bad. And they play good as a home dog. They beat Texas Tech, and this is a very similar type of team. Oregon State goes to Cal. Oregon State, the A team, Cal. I got them as an over team, but they don't have a quarterback. It's at the running back. What's he going to do against Oregon State? And again, it's not at Oregon State. And then the last game is Arizona goes to USC. So Arizona with the backup at home plays Washington fairly well. Got a lot of help from the refs. And here's USC. So again, I would rather see DeLuca in there, but the backup didn't play terrible. Really, they got 17 on Washington, but Washington's got a good defense. So depends what the over-under here is, but Arizona should be able to score on them. So that is this week's game. So again, the play of the game of the week is Oklahoma, Texas. I've been waiting for this, the revenge. We'll see, but that's what you're looking for. So my Z teams are Middle Tennessee, Ball State in the MAC, Kent in the MAC, Connecticut, Arizona State, but I think statistically, but they played pretty good against SC, and they got their quarterbacks back, so I'm not sure they're a Z team, but statistically they are. So what I do is if it shows they've got 20 points a game and they give up 40, they're a Z team. But again, you've got to understand the injuries of it. So like A&M starting quarterbacks out, but their backup's fine, so I'll keep them as an A team. But so that's what you look for. Some of these Z teams, the quarterback comes back. They're really not Z teams anymore. So this is an interesting week in both college and pro. So I'm all up to date with stats. I got to look at injuries. That's that. Today we like Seattle. They're locked with the Rams. However, that was getting 7.5 against the Giants, which we don't have 7.5. Let's see what we have. See, now Seattle is 2.5. They must know I locked the game. So now I would not even, I don't know if I'd even play it, but what intrigued me was them as a dog. So now the line's moved 4 points on Seattle, which worries me because that sets up the fix. But if the fix is in, they'll win by 1, or the Giants will win by 3 or something. But again, I locked it, getting 7.5 on Monday or Tuesday, which I told you about. So initially, my free play was Green Bay, Seattle. I never played that. Those are just free picks. But my play was always the Rams, Seattle, my lock. And then I played the Rams and a lock with Utah because they stayed dog. So then Seattle goes to -1. I don't want to lock Seattle with Utah under, so I play Utah under with the Rams because they were still getting 7.5. So I wanted the dog. So here, Seattle is a over team, and the Giants are the Z team. So Seattle, I can't imagine this won't be a close game, but it's a whole different thing now that they're 2.5-point favorites and you get 3.5. It's not the same. So I'm hoping you guys bet this, more when I told you to. But that's why I do these Monday picks when prudent. So when I look at it, I got to fill in the spread for the pros. Again, I read you my spread, and I still got to get my data. I'm really pissed because Yahoo's not giving me the average offensive points by team. It's giving me the defense. So now I got to bring in fucking standings and then divide now by 4 to get the offensive points, or find another website where I can just pencil them in. But I don't know why Yahoo is not bringing in the offensive points. They do in college, they do in the NFL defensively, but they're not doing it here. Anyway, so I did want to talk gold and economics. I think we're done. But if there's any other questions on football, I'll take them, of course. So let's see. So we had a couple of Aligator, Alistair McLeod things. So what we're thinking is that with these sanctions, what Russia's going to do, they're going to have to back their ruble by gold, because what I've said is if nobody wants this, it's worthless. If nobody wants this, I can't sell it. I can only sell it if there's demand. Well, we know there's huge demand for gold. We know nobody wants this anymore, and the demand for this is going away. And also the demand for the ruble is not really highly sought after. And what's happening is Russia is now selling their oil for gold, which has got to make the gold price go up. But again, the London Exchange and COMEX, the U.S., are paper gold markets. So we've got to blow those up. The ruble will have to go to gold. So what they wanted to do was do a BRICS-backed gold currency, which is what we thought was going to happen. China and India got corrupted by the U.S. and are saying, well, we don't want it right now. India's rupee is going to zero, right? So they're fucked if they don't. China's kind of waiting. Their economy's blowing up, but they have all the gold. And Russia, the ruble, it's just because of the sanctions, not a lot of people want it, but they have all the gold. They got 32,000 tons of it. So they're going to back the ruble by gold, which is good. That leads the U.S. to then this will blow up. All these will blow up. So this is the fuse, is the ruble going broke to get the gold going up. And that's really what's happening. So this goes to, by the ruble backing by gold, makes this go to zero. And all the other fiat currencies. And that's when the West falls apart. And that's when the East becomes the power, Russia and China. So that's what's happened. That's what he's talking about mostly. Let me play this real quickly. I can see everybody's into the football, but I'll do this anyway because
sort of gold-backed commodity currency. This could roll out in several forms, but obviously each one will severely impact this current leverage paper to physical market gold balance. But I think obviously it's your work on the ruble and backing of the ruble. Now, obviously, we've been looking at Glazev's commodity currencies and how forms that take, but this is something worth knowing. Thanks for coming on, Alistair.
Well, it's very much my pleasure. What can I tell you? I mean, yeah, the ruble thing is fascinating. I think everybody reckons that, I mean, if you sort of follow economic theory and all the rest of it as it's taught in schools, then a higher trade surplus is good for your currency. Well,
okay, so what he just said was, if you're a Keynesian and you follow the Keynesian, because that's the only thing taught in schools now, you don't understand that printing the dollar takes it to zero, and you think you got to have trade surpluses and all this. This is the problem in the world. There's two different economics. There's the Austrian, which is what I teach, and then there's the Keynesian, which has been proven that it doesn't work, but the world likes it because it's communism. So the U.S. wants to control you, so they go with the Keynesian school, which says the government runs everything. The government runs the market. The government tries to control you. We want freedom, and the U.S. was founded on Austrian economics and Adam Smith. That's what we want. That's what everybody wants and should have. But the people in charge of these governments don't do that. And so what he's saying is the whatever he called it it's all Keynesian, means this is how we believe that no, we don't want unemployment. We want surpluses. We want higher energy prices. That's what makes the dollar stronger. And if you look at Venezuela, they got all this high oil price, but it isn't strong because you can't print the money. They're two apples and oranges. You print this to zero, it doesn't matter anything else. This goes to zero, you're fucked. It doesn't, if you don't back it by gold, you're fucked. That's the bottom line. And that's not, what, and all these guys are Keynesians don't believe that. They believe, well, we'll have a big surplus. We'll have this trade, we'll have that trade, and we'll be fine. And they don't get it.
No, not really, because currencies are actually more driven, certainly in the fiat currency world, which is what we have. They're actually driven by faith and credit in the fiat currency. So as an opener, I mean, how much faith and credit does anyone have in the ruble? Zero. And worse than that, if you look at the history of the ruble, really since about the early 1990s, I mean, bear in mind that in 1998 they had a 1,000 for 1 consolidation. So if you look at the price of oil in rubles, go back to 1992, then at that time the ruble price adjusted for that of a barrel of oil was about 7.5 rubles for a barrel of oil. Now it's what, 7,500 rubles for a barrel of oil. And so you can see how much the ruble has lost purchasing power against the dollar. And the dollar itself, we all know since then, has lost an awful lot of purchasing power measured by gold, which is, if you like, the only honest monetary standard.
Real quick, when he says purchasing power, what he should be saying is inflation. That's exactly what inflation is. It really is saying this dollar is worthless. right? So you're losing the value of the dollar because you're printing it. He's not really understanding. You print this, the purchasing power goes down. You can't buy as much, basically, is what he's kind of getting, but not completely. He doesn't call it inflation, and then he'll call price inflation. I'm not sure Alligator understands what inflation is. He understands the purchasing power of this goes down, but he doesn't call it inflation. That's very weird. I call it inflation here. I've never heard from YouTube that I can't. So I don't know why he's calling it as if, well, this is purchasing power going down here, but inflation is price inflation. So really, when he says purchasing power going down, in English, it's the inflation's high and the value of the dollar is dropping. That's what reality is.
The idea that forcing up energy prices, which is what Putin and Saudis are doing between them at the moment, the idea that that's going to be good for the ruble, forget it. It's going to be worse for the ruble than it is for the dollar. Because what happens? Forget the trade surpluses, deficits, whatever. Basically, you get out of uncertainty and you get into something which you feel familiar with. In other words, people will sell rubles and buy dollars, which they've been doing already. Even while the price of oil has risen from, where was it? It was negative briefly in April 2020. Yeah. And we're currently looking at 90 going on 100. So, the ruble, I can tell you that the oil price is no friend to the ruble. And this is very, very important because Putin, in conjunction with the Saudis, has embarked on a policy of driving up particularly heating oil prices and diesel, which is its slightly lighter cousin. That is going to have an enormous impact on the inflation rates in the West, as you may imagine. I mean, first of all, heating oil, wow, we're getting into the Northern Hemisphere winter. And if you look at diesel, I mean, over 95% of our logistics is diesel. So the higher price of diesel affects the price of virtually everything. But the problem that Putin has, which is what I identified in that article, is that the more he pursues this policy, the more he undermines his own currency. So what that means is that while he can make the Germans shiver in Germany, by God, they'll be damn well freezing in Siberia. And that is potentially politically destabilizing for him. The only thing that Putin can do, and I know that from Sergei Glaziev's writings and all the rest of it, and I know that he has Putin's ear. There's a very famous picture of Putin proudly holding a 400-ounce bar of gold and all the rest of it and looking at it lovingly. I mean, this guy, I think, does understand gold. I mean, perhaps not as much as you and I, but we set a fairly high bar, I like to think, on that one. But Glaziev certainly gets it. And what this means is that as the ruble begins to weaken, and we've got roughly 1 ruble, 1 cent now, I mean, it's damn nearly that, then he is going to be forced to put the ruble onto a gold standard. Now, it's actually quite easy for him to do so. If you look at the underlying economic numbers, I mean, Russian debt to GDP is around about 17.5%. This year, it'll probably go up to about 20. You look at the tax rate is 13% for individuals, 20% for companies. So actually, the Russian economy is in a position where if it had a stable currency, it would be rather like the British economy in 1820, 1830. I mean, with an enormous amount of potential. And I think also that, I mean, if I was in Putin's shoes, I would want to set if you like, something in motion which allows the economy to do well without it having to sacrifice its birthright being all those commodities which are available for export. I mean, you're basically selling the family silver all the time. If you remember, that was what Harold Macmillan said about Maggie Thatcher.
Yes.
This is something which actually is easy to manage. And you will understand this because when the Central Bank of Russia, I mean, I would recommend it splits into two. You've got an issuing side, which controls the interest rate, as it were. And its mandate is quite simple. You use the interest rate to manage the gold stock. That's important. And it gets fully convertible to anyone who wants to exchange rubles back for it. And the way this works, quite simply, is that Russian institutions, Russian banks, will see that at current interest rates, which I think is something like 12% in rubles, what that amounts to is if you go and buy gold in the West, where the lease rate is less than 2%, okay, and you get paid, if you lease your gold, you get paid in dollars, fiat, which is not attached to anything. Instead of that, you can buy that gold, arbitrage it into the issue department of the Central Bank of Russia. And what do you get? You get your gold plus 15%. Or 12%, I think. This is enough to do a proper arbitrage. It covers the cost of getting the stuff out of a Western vault. So I can see that this is the easiest way for them to build reserves, gold reserves, and ensure that the ruble is always on a gold standard and cannot be challenged. And of course, once you do that, this is rather like dropping a nuclear bomb on fiat currencies. This, as far as Russia is concerned, as far as Putin is concerned, would actually elevate his position within Russian history to what we're told he really wants. He wants to be compared with Peter the Great. So you can see this would be his legacy. Very important. But the problem he has, and this is what came out of the BRICS thing, because, I mean, even back in January, Lavrov said, that a new gold-backed currency would be on the agenda in August. Why was it not on the agenda? Well, the answer basically is that India and China turned around and said, no, we're not going for this. India is Keynesian. We have been appointing, the Bank of England has been advising, let me put it that way, the appointment of the Reserve Bank of India governor for decades and decades and decades. They are Keynesian. They turned their back on gold for a very, very long time. They found it a pain in the backside that the people kept on insisting on buying gold as a sort of defense against a declining rupee. Eventually, they started acquiring some gold. Now, whether they've actually got it or not, of course, is something that we can argue about. But you can see that they're not ready for this. And not only that, they don't want to upset us in the Western Alliance because they do a lot of trade with us. They're trying to do a trade deal with us, or are we trying to do a trade deal with them? They've got those links as well as the links into the Shanghai Court.
Okay, so let's back up. So why is it a nuclear bomb if they come out with a ruble backed by gold and go to the gold standard? Because this toilet paper cannot compete with gold. And all the currencies are toilet paper and they're worthless. You come out with a gold-backed currency, this cannot compete. These will all go away because the demand on the market, we go back to Adam Smith, the demand for this there's always going to be demand, right? Sell it at $50, there's demand, you get the price. The demand for this goes away. As you said, nobody wants the ruble. Well, nobody wants this either. And if you have a gold-backed currency, everybody will go to that because gold is money, and this is all worthless. All this is worthless. So that's the first part of why it would be a nuclear bomb, because everybody would run to the ruble because it's gold, it's stable. Because people realize that I'd rather have gold than dollars. So that was the first part. The second part was India. They didn't want to do it because they trade with us. Why do they want to trade with us if our dollar is doo-doo? That doesn't make sense to me. If this is worthless and Russia doesn't want to trade, why is India trading with us? To get dollars? Why would they want dollars? Russia doesn't want dollars, and same thing with China. They don't want to go on the gold standard because they trade with us, and you're like, but doesn't make sense because the dollar is worthless. Then there was another thing he had said about the ruble was with ruble. I think he's about to get to it, which is basically he's going to say Russia can't trade in rupees. First of all, they're worthless, but secondly, you can't have the direct trade, so they have to buy dollars. So if they get rupees for their oil, they need to turn it into dollars to buy rubles. But the problem is they can't because they're sanctioned. So they don't want the rupee because it's worthless. They think it's just like the dollar. So we'll get into oil for gold in a minute. So let's hear them again.
Organization, slightly uneasy relationship with China, and so on and so forth. So you can see why they didn't want to go for this. And I think the Chinese equally had a problem because their approach to things is sort of rather evolutionary. You know, they say we've been around for 2,500 years and, you know, nothing gets done in a hurry. And so their attitude is, you know, let someone else make the mistakes and then we will decide policy. So I think that they would probably wait to see what happens to the dollar, what happens to the euro, and so on and so forth, before they are driven to secure the value of the yuan by some sort of gold standard or reference to gold or whatever it might be. And that way, China doesn't get blamed for the problems we have in the West, for exacerbating them, if you see what I mean. So I can understand where they're coming from. But from Russia's point of view, Plan A was a BRICS gold-linked currency. That has not gone forward. They've now got to think about Plan B. How can we secure the ruble? And it's interesting that all the dynamics of this have been completely changed by the Saudi position, who basically share exactly the same view. I mean, It's all very well saying, oh, you know, we'll take rupees, but I mean, they're damn well worthless in the hands of the Russians and, you know, worth not very much more in the hands of the Saudis. So, you know, this is not a long-term solution to the current geopolitical impasse, if you like, between the Asian hegemons and America.
And I think, you know, so much to this because there's so many ways you can spin off this. Now, if Russia was to do this, and as you say, it's not difficult to do. And obviously there are steps along the way, but not difficult for how explaining it. This is achievable. The contagion of that spreading to the likes of China, other jurisdictions, would be that nuclear bomb you're talking about, I think.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I think that's eventually where they're going. It's a question of how rapidly they progress in that direction. And the position of emerging market currencies is equally interesting. And that is that their economies, without the welfare burden, can actually quite easily go on to, let's say, a currency board type arrangement with a more stable currency, be it the ruble or the yuan or something, or even on gold if they've got some reserves themselves. So that can be done. I mean, and it's also important to understand that Africa in particular has evolved now into a completely different animal from what we've been used to in the past. I mean, in the past, the way we kept them in line basically was through, you know, if you like, overseas aid and all the rest of it. You know, we basically bought the politicians, and you know, we take the view a good politician is one who's bought and stays bought. You know, they've moved on from that now, and China in particular has been responsible for achieving that. It's tended to go to countries like Kenya, which is where I was brought up, so I'm familiar with it, and said, you know, we will invest in your infrastructure. We will work on joint projects, and you know, we will advance your economy. And I can tell you the potential of Africa, from you know, all the railways and all the rest of it that are being built, is absolutely enormous. I mean, we built a railway from Mombasa up to I think Kampala in Uganda. That was what, 1912, something like that. It was known as the Lunatic Express because it cost this country quite a lot of money. It was rather like HS2, but somewhere else. But what are the Chinese doing? They're building a new railway. I think on a wider gauge, because this was a meter gauge railway, and it's going to go all the way into the DRC. You can see what this means. Mm-hmm. And indeed, if you look at a map of Africa and sort of put on top of it all the communications that China has put in and is planning to put in, it's like looking through a piece of lace at the map of Africa. I mean, it's everywhere, absolutely everywhere. This is a new period, a new phase. It's a new stage in the evolution of Africa into becoming a really productive economy, driven away from tribalism in particular, shedding the legacy of colonialism, which has good and bad and all the rest of it, shedding the legacy of post-colonial Africa, where we just continue to bribe the guys. Those politicians are becoming a bit more like yesterday. And so I think this is a huge, huge evolutionary step, which is not really fully appreciated in the West. And the other thing, if you look at South America, I mean, I was fascinated to see that Argentina, which has now joined BRICS, was given a $1 billion equivalent loan from China so that it could pay its dollar loan to the IMF. Otherwise, it was going to be yet another default, whatever. So, the basis whereby America goes and buys you effectively by lending you money which you can't pay back, that is now being undermined completely as a policy. And what are the Americans doing about it? I mean, actually, they're pretty helpless in all this. All they can do is sort of thrash around and say, well, we'll go and defeat Putin in the Ukraine. We'll rattle sabers over Taiwan, but realistically, there's nothing they can do, particularly in their financial position.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's go to the CBDCs. Well, here's a neat one. All right.
On top of which, there's a further sort of, 20-odd thousand tons in the hands of the public. This is a very, very big slice of above ground stocks. And so they are well protected against the time when Western fiat currencies actually, meet their Armageddon. The Chinese are already there. It's just they don't want to trigger it. The Russians are a lot more aggressive. But as far as the Chinese are concerned, no, we will let the West make mistakes. We will let Western currencies, sink. We will let all that happen. We are not going to aggravate this situation. It's not our style. We will defend ourselves from it when it is absolutely obvious that we've got no alternative but to defend ourselves from a sinking currency regime. I think that's very important for us all to understand. And we are now in a position where that sinking currency regime is becoming very, very obvious. Interest rates are going to continue to rise. I mean, it's very, very interesting. I mean, people like Jim Grant, I'm told, I was interviewed by someone yesterday, and he had Jim Grant on, and he was saying that there seem to be more and more of these senior guys agreeing with me that interest rates are not going to go down. So the reason they go up basically is because currencies are weakening and in terms of their purchasing power. So if you factor that in and you factor in a credit crunch, which is the result of banks trying to reduce their balance sheets, and we've seen contraction in money supply, in America, also the Eurozone in particular, UK as well. this is basically undermining the economy as a whole. But it's a credit crunch, and that's going to drive up interest rates. I mean, the idea that the Fed has got control over interest rates, forget it. This is a credit crunch. What happens when banks start restricting credit? Well, the first thing that happens is people need more credit. Why? Because their businesses are slowing down and they need cash. So on that basis, this credit crunch has got quite some way to go. What does that do to government finances? Well, it puts America in a real pickle, because, not only are the foreigners, so trying to get out of, or they will be trying to get out of US dollar financial assets, because with higher interest rates, guess what? Bond yields rise, which means bond prices fall. It also means that equities get undermined as well. And they've got $32 trillion worth of this stuff officially. On top of that, there's the Eurodollar market, and this is the subject of an article which will be published tomorrow. And it appears that the total size of dollars outside this market is around about 90 trillion. $90 trillion not in the banking system. And of that, 15 trillion is on non-US bank balance sheets. In other words, extra deposits. So the amount of dollars in a crisis that are going to try and get back home where they belong is absolutely phenomenal. And that, of course, will severely and very rapidly undermine the purchasing power, if you like, the faith and credit, put it that way, in that fiat currency.
Yeah.
Or what he just said was inflation. So you bring back $90 trillion from outside of the U.S., bring it in, that's all inflation. And the dollar is worthless, the gold's through the roof, and we're on a different, we got to go find a gold-backed currency. So once people lose faith in this, and that's why I say it's the Titanic, the boat's sinking. As it sinks, you got to get off the boat. Well, as everybody starts getting off the dollar, right now it's the best currency of all the crap currencies. It's the best toilet paper on the shelf. So people will get out of their dollars. The weaker countries like Zimbabwe, well, they're in the gold, but Turkey or France maybe, or the Euro countries, they might buy dollars for safety. But then once they realize that the dollars aren't safe, they're going to dump them. There's $90 trillion they got to dump. And what do? They get out of dollars and they'll buy. So you're in Switzerland with Egon, and he dumps his dollars for Swiss francs. Should be dumping them for gold, but he dumps them for Swiss francs all of a sudden. So all of those dollars come back to the U.S. It's a flood in, and there's no more value on the dollar. So that's what's happening. $90 trillion. All right, so let's talk CBDCs. Everybody's so worried about them. No need to be.
The poor, and by this I also mean pensioners and all the rest of it, ordinary people who have relied on the state to provide them with pensions and so on and so forth. I mean, they're going to get wiped out. This is not good. This really is not good.
No, you're right. You're right. Now, interesting, just swinging slightly to a different angle here. I'm central bank digital currencies. I know. Okay, so this is interesting because, I have my views, one thing or another, but, people say they're coming. That was interesting, my discussion with Jeff Schneider last week. And he kind of made me think. Actually, when you think about it, yes, there's going to be many efforts to do this, but blockchain technology is now out of the bag. Decentralized blockchain technology is out of the bag. Essentially, it's an existential threat to the banking system, because why do I need a bank to handle my finances when I have the trustless blockchain? I can do everything on it. I don't need the bank anymore. Interesting. So, thoughts on that?
Well, flaw in that argument, if I may say so,
Yeah, please.
is that you're putting a fiat currency onto a blockchain. I mean, do you really want it? I mean, forget it.
No, but I think just as obviously, just as a process, obviously we can put any asset onto the blockchain, gold or whatever. But I think in this instance, you're talking about, well, once you've got an automated KYC AML procedure for your fiat currency, currently fiat currency, but really central bank digital currencies are about fiat currency. So I mean, this is what they're trying to impose on us with this whole social credit system that perhaps goes with it, as Nigel Farage will attest to after being debanked. But it's interesting because I just, again, it's yes, it's dealing with fiat, but it's a stepping stone. Once blockchain technology is out of the bag, you can't put it back. It is accessible to everybody.
Yeah, but I think it's a fashionable argument. Let me put it that way.
Yes, okay.
Let me demolish it.
Go for it.
I'll say the first thing, and that is that the last time there was a replacement form of currency for something that was collapsing was at the time of the French Revolution. You had the assignat, which was collapsing in value. Everybody hated it. And then they came out with the mandat territorial, this new currency. Wonderful. But that was gone within 6 months. So, this idea that you can, replace one fiat or add to one fiat by producing no, it doesn't actually deal with the underlying problem. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is that in terms of implementing this in the way in which the Bank of International Settlements, who set up a committee to look at this and came up with their recommendations. I mean, they want this as a means of the state controlling where the stimulus actually goes to in the economy, which means that the state decides which businesses to support. Well, that's a disaster for a start. But anyway, we'll gloss over that. The problem is that if you're going to do that, then, every business and every person has got to have an account with the central bank. Now, imagine just how long it would take the Bank of England. I mean, the Bank of England have rejected this, incidentally, but if they were to go down this route, how long would it take for them to, sort of set up the software, test it, committee meetings and all the rest of it, the whole thing. I mean, they'd still be looking at it in 10 years' time.
Right.
Now, let's look at the American situation, which actually is probably the most important. So far as I'm aware, every politician in America is bankrolled by the banks when it comes to getting elected, Republican, Democrat or other. Now, are these turkeys going to vote for Christmas? I don't think so. They're not going to vote for something that cuts out the commercial banks. Now, the commercial banks, I think, have kept very quiet on this. I think with very good reason. I mean, if I was, say, on the committee considering this at JP Morgan, I think I would probably dismiss this out of hand or say, well, it's so far away. I mean, you can get, stories like China are trying it out here and whatever, but, this is not national currency stuff at all. I think it was one of the Caribbean islands tried to do this. Barbados tried to do this. Come on, that's not this is not a serious attempt at running, a CBDC. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen for the very simple reason that it's nobody's interest for it to happen. And in any event, the collapse that we're likely to see in the purchasing power of existing fiat currencies, I think, is likely to be so rapid to, if you like, preclude it actually happening in the first place. I mean, particularly if the Russians, as I say, are forced to go down the line of, securing the value of the ruble to gold. I mean, that's going to change everything. It really is.
Absolutely. And I think that is kind of full circle to where we started because.
And that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. So what we're looking at is the ruble losing its value, going on the gold standard, blowing up all the fiat currencies. If you do have a CBDC, nobody in America wants it because if I'm elected, a bank got me in. So Wells Fargo puts Howard in, and now I'm a senator or governor or whatever, congressman. I'm not going to go turn on Wells Fargo. They got me in. So nobody's going to vote for a CBDC. It'll take at least 20 years to even implement it because we're not connected to the Federal Reserve. We're connected to Chase and Wells Fargo and these banks. So there's so many banks out there that there's no way we're going to give up. So in other words, you'd have to have the politicians voted in, but they're not because they're all puppets to the banks who got them in. So they're never going to vote for it in the first place. If it even gets that far, because once Russia, whose value is now $99 to the U.S., once it goes, they're going to have to protect their dollars. They got 35,000 tons of gold, so they have the gold to go on a gold-backed system to protect their rubles, and that's where this close from it. Gold goes through the roof. They're already getting oil with gold because gold, they don't want rupees for their oil. They want gold for their oil. Because even if they get the rupee, it can't exchange. They can't use it. They have to trade it for U.S. dollars and then buy the U.S. dollars. Well, they can't because they're sanctioned. So they're done with the Indian. They don't want Indian money. Saudi Arabia doesn't want Indian money. But if you give me gold, they'll take it. So there's all these setups for gold. And there's all these setups that the currencies all collapse, which is what we've been talking about for the last 2 years. That's the Titanic, right? The ship's hit the iceberg, it's sinking, and this is the ship, and it's hit the iceberg and it's sinking, but nobody wants to realize it. You've got $90 trillion out there of foreigners holding U.S. dollars for safety instead of gold. Once they realize what's going on, they get rid of their dollars. They'll either buy. So if you're in Switzerland, you're either buying Swiss francs or gold. The smart people will buy gold because they'll realize my Swiss franc's not going to be worth anything. So then you got the Russians, which at that point will force China to also, their currency will be worthless, to then back the BRICS by gold, and that makes gold go through the roof. So it's very, very positive for gold, what's going on. The ruble collapsing will force a gold-backed ruble. So everything for gold is golden. All we got to do is sit back and wait. Now, my visit to the gold store, my coin store on Friday and Saturday, in the middle of jobs. So I got money in the safe. I don't keep it in the bank. If I got money in the safe, how much money do I keep in the safe versus taking it to the gold store and buying more gold? But then I don't want to spend it all and then have gold, and then I need money. I go on a vacation or something and I need money, and I want to then buy, I want the money. I don't want to cash in gold at 2,000 an ounce, or now it's 1850 or something. So I don't want to cash it in for only 1850. Right now I want to buy more of it. So I want to buy more because it's cheaper, but I don't want to sell it at this price because this is the paper gold, not the physical gold. We'll get into that tomorrow with the as good as as good as gold Australia, right? Where they get into that a little bit more, and basically that's the point of it. I lost my train of thought. So you don't want to hold dollars. So then I've got, how much money do I keep in the safe? Because I don't want to take my gold and only get 1,800 when it's going to go up to 20,000. So if it's going to go up to 20,000, why do I want to hold? I don't want to sell it at this price, but because it's paper, that's what I was going to say. So the London and the Comebacks are the biggest gold, but they're paper gold. And the Shanghai is just China. It's not the world. It's $100 higher. But there really isn't the physical gold value that we're looking for yet. That's what's going to come out of when they go to a gold-backed currency. the price of gold, I don't know. It'll blow up COMEX and the London Exchange, which has all the derivatives, which they're keeping the price down with. So they're playing their game. It's going to blow up. But with that said, so this is I'm buying it at it's not even 1850. So I don't want to sell it. So I'm kind of, how much money do I need and how much gold can I buy with it? As the price goes down, I want to buy another ounce or two at 1900 an ounce. So I go to the gold store. He basically has 1 ounce, 1 eagle, 1 something else. He's got 1/10 of an ounce eagles and 1 maple leaf 1/10 of an ounce. So he didn't have any quarters or halves. So the problem with the Americans is they're $2.50 for the 1/10 of an ounce. The Canadians $2.20. He's not lowering his price from $2.50 when gold was $19.50 and gold's at $18.50. He's still $2.50 an ounce. So I'm like, what the fuck? Why now? And then I figured it out. I was talking to a buddy and I was explaining it to him, and the light went on. And so what happens is, if I were to go sell my ounce of gold for before, they would give me $19.50 because that's what the spot was. They'd give me $19.50, but then he's selling it for 100 over spot at $20.50. But now that gold's down, so let's say he bought it for $19.50. Now gold's down to $18.50. So if he goes 100 over spot, he's at $19.50. But he paid $19.50 to me to buy it when it was at $19.50. So he gave me spot, but spot's gone down 100. He doesn't want to sell it because he's not making any money on it, because he's too stupid to realize that the actual price of gold in physical gold is 20,000 an ounce. So he's buying it. He's giving you spot. He's basically cheating you. Well, I'll give you spot for it. Yeah, but I can't buy it for spot. Why aren't you giving it to me? Why isn't there one market? So he's pulling a Madoff. So he's saying, okay, I'll give you the $19.50. But when spot goes down to $18.50 and he can only sell it for $19.50, he doesn't want to sell it because he's not making any money. That's what he paid for it. So that's what he's doing with these 1/10 of an ounce at $250 for a 1/10 of an ounce, because that's what he paid for it. So he won't lower that down. But why should I pay for it? The ounce of gold went down from $19.50 to $18.50. Therefore, 1/10 should be $185. Let's call it $200 for the 1/10 of an ounce. He's $250. The maple leaf, okay, he's $220 on or something. Okay, so maybe I can buy that, but I don't really want to. I'd rather buy the quarters and the half. I can get a 1/4 ounce maple leaf or Cougaran or Philharmonic for $5.10. So I can buy 2 of those as a 1/2 ounce for $1,020. Well, I'd rather keep my money for the 1/4 ounces or buy a 1/2 ounce for $1,000 than buy some more 1/10 of an ounce, especially at $250. They're not a fair price. And that's it. He didn't have anything else. So he's not, either he doesn't have it or he's kept it away waiting for the spot to go back up. So the spot's going down. It's all bullshit. It's all paper, as we know. I assume the question is who's buying it at this lower. So they lower the price so somebody can buy it. Well, we know Russia and China. It ain't Russia because they can't buy U.S. Maybe it's China, but they got 60,000 tons. I think at this point they want it to go up. It's not the Indians because they are Keynesians, so they don't even believe in gold, except for the people for wedding gifts and stuff like that. They give gold. So some country is looking to buy gold. I assume it's the central banks in Europe and Asia. Maybe it's Hong Kong, Singapore. Maybe it's China. Maybe it's Poland, or one of these that can you lower the price for me? I want to buy more. So that's what's happening. So if you think it clearly, if I want to buy this Canadian claw ball, but I only want to spend $5 on it, it's $75. But if you do derivatives, can you lower this price so I can buy it cheaper? Which is basically what they're doing, and it's all illegal. And so that's why the price is going down, because of it's paper. So I told the guys, so you want to sell physical gold at paper prices? Do you realize what you're doing? Do you understand that the paper price is bullshit? The problem is there's no physical price. I don't understand how it's the only commodity in the world that doesn't have a regular physical price. It has a paper price on it. It has a derivative price. So once we all understand that, which we all do, that's why we don't. That's why I don't want to sell into this. I want to buy more. So I always look at it as a great buying opportunity. Gold's down to 1850. Okay, where's the buy line? And most of my gold was bought in the 17 and 1800s. So I paid 18 for it. It doesn't really matter. I'm trying to buy ounces. I'm trying to get out of the, I'm trying to get rid of, really what I'm trying to do first and foremost is get rid of this. Now, Aligator keeps saying about it's not gold going up, it's this going down. To a point, he still misses that gold will go up because it's been suppressed. And so once the supply, he doesn't get the supply demand ratio. So because there's so much demand and so little supply, the price will go up also. But yes, so what he's saying is as this goes down in value, believe me, it's not got a lot left because it's only worth 2 cents. So when this goes to zero, gold, let's say gold's 10,000 an ounce, because the ounce of paper of money goes to, or fiat current, we'll call it fiat. This goes to zero, which means that as this is going down, it takes more money to buy it. However, that's not what's happening now. As this is going down, and you know, $5 for Orioles, wait a minute, this is going down, but gold's not going up because it's paper price. So the real price is going up, and that's what he's missing. So he thinks, well, no, it's the paper price going down, but the paper price is going down, and you're not seeing it. And that was the question. I think it's in the other video. He basically asked the question, well, why? Oh, I think it's the other guys.
Hi, I'm Joel Boyd, the founder of Performance Roof Systems. As a roofing professional, I understand
installer experience the same.
So with these guys, we'll do this tomorrow. They've asked them the question, why are all the prices in Brazil and these other countries, Turkey, Greece, why is the value of gold going up, but not in the U.S.? I'll get to that question tomorrow. And the answer is because they're minor currencies, and therefore, as they're losing value to the dollar. So that's why their gold price is up. But realistically, the gold price, you just convert it. It's really their currency. So if you do an FX lookup, and you see the dollar versus the Ukraine dollar, and it's like $36 now to the Ukraine dollar. And so the point is that the gold price really isn't going up, but the Ukraine dollar is going down in value. Therefore, the gold has gone up because the gold's sitting at COMEX price. And since we're controlling it, and our dollar, because it's all FX, isn't really moving because we're the ones keeping score. We're the scorekeepers. So therefore, since the dollar isn't measured against anything else, the gold at 1900 is still 1900. That's why it hasn't gone up. Even though the value of the dollar's gone down, it hasn't. So that's what we'll hear his answer. But that's kind of his answer. But it's funny. I listened. So this is As Good as Gold Australia. And it's very similar to what we just listened to. He talks about the CBDCs. He talks about Russia and China and the gold. And at the end of the day is Russia's got 32,000 tons. China's got 60,000 tons. There's only 250,000 tons in the world. The central banks are buying it up. There's not a whole lot of tons left. I go to the gold store on Friday and Saturday. There's no gold. There's a few tenth of an ounces that he doesn't want to sell at the real price, so he's selling them at $250 for a tenth of an ounce. It should be about $200 now. So he's not going to sell it at $250, but that's what he paid for it, so he doesn't want to lose on it. And he had 1 ouncer, which I could have bought for $19.50. But again, how much money do I need in the safe, versus, I can go buy $10,000 more and buy another 5 or 6 ounces of gold, put that in the safe. So, one or the other. I'd rather have the gold, but I need, if I got to pay for something, if I got to go on a trip, or, Jenna needs a new window for her apartment, and Daria needs, I just got her some clothes. So with that said, I only get so much where I can pay my bills, and then it's the other money. So that's really what it is. But if we go on a vacation, then I pull some money out of that. So that's where I'm at with it. So I'm kind of caught where I don't want to get caught too short on money, where I have to start selling my gold for these ridiculously low prices of $1,800 or $1,900. So that's really where I'm at. So I'm I'll buy a little bit, but I don't want to start buying another 2-3 ounces until I really understand. When I see gold at 50,000, then I'll get out of it. Now, I do have a lot of silver, which as silver goes up, then I can. So the thought is silver's like 80 to 1 for gold. However, when silver goes to 10 to 1, so gold will be 50,000, silver will be 5,000, then I'll buy more gold with 10 ounces of silver. So I'll take 10 ounces of silver, give me an ounce of gold, there's another 10. And that's how I'll pay. So basically, I'll buy the gold. So he's selling it for 50,000. Here's 10 ounces of silver. Here's your 50,000 in silver for the gold, which you should take, I would imagine. So that's what we'll do with it. But that's the whole key to it, is those prices will be going through the roof. So why would I sell an ounce of gold for $1,800, $1,900 that will be worth 30, 40, 50,000? It will buy a house for me down the road. So why do I want to sell it now? No, I want to buy more of it. And I've got money in the safe that's going to go to zero. It's going to be worthless. Now, it's not going to happen today, but it could happen very, very soon. Aligator thinks it'll happen very soon. And it's going to just boom. I mean, it'll be, as Bobby asked me, will it go from 10, will it go from 3,000 to 5 to 10? And no, it's going to go 2 to 10 to 20. And as people start, there's way more demand than supply, the price will just zoom up. And it'll be like one day it'll be 5, the next day it'll be 10, the next day it'll be 15, the next day it'll be 20. That's what'll happen to gold and silver. So you want to have it now. So so I wanted to buy another half ounce or a couple quarter ounces. I didn't really want a tenth of an ounce because I'm limited in the money. So if I spend the tenth of an ounce for 220, that's 220 I don't have for the quarter or half. I'd rather get more quarters and halves. So that's the point. So that's what I'm waiting for. But they'll all be worth way more money, and you can see what's happening. So in effect, the BRICS, the ruble is losing value. BRICS wants to wait a little. China wants to wait for the collapse. They don't want to be blamed for the collapse. they want to wait and say, look, it wasn't us. You guys did it. You guys are idiots. You inflated your dollars, which we know you would. You don't have any gold, which is why we got 60,000 tons of it, because we know we need the gold and we know your dollar is worthless. But because we're Chinese, this is our culture, is we don't get involved. We wait till it collapses and then we'll come on in. Russia's like already there, 32,000 or so tons of gold. They're sitting there going, okay, we're ready. The rubles nobody wants because they don't want Russian money is at 97. $1 buys you 97 rubles. So when I give money to Daria, she's making out, well, her rent's 220 and I give her 220 American. Well, that was at 50 or 55 rubles. Now it's so so the same 220 for me, she's making out like a bandit, which is okay. But as their ruble goes, then they can have a new ruble, which they're already working on, backed by gold. They wanted BRICS money backed by gold, but India is Keynesian, doesn't want it because Keynesians are communists that want the government to control it, and they think gold's no good because they can't print money. They're not intelligent enough to realize I can't print this to death. If I keep printing it, it won't have a value. I don't know how you cannot understand that basic concept. The more you print, the less it's worth. It's like I was telling my girls in softball, see the ball, hit the ball. Keep it simple, stupid, kiss. If you see the ball, just look at the ball and aim your bat for where the ball's at. The more you print of paper currency that is not backed by anything, the less it has in value. Simple. But the Keynesians think, well, you know what? If we raise oil prices, then the dollar will be worth more. No, the dollar, you print the dollar to zero. That's the end. That's it. There's nothing to do with how much oil you have or electricity or utilities, how much diamonds you have. It's all based on you printing the dollar. But if you back your dollar by gold, means you can't print it like that because you have to have enough gold to support the dollar. So it stops you from fucking up. But the Keynesians think there's a different way. Oh no, we'll have no unemployment. We'll have more energy. We'll this and we'll do that. So because India is Keynesian and China is pretty much thinks more Adam Smith, they're waiting. But Russia can't wait. The ruble with the war is worthless. So they're going to come out with it. And that's black swan number one. Black swan number two is this going to zero. So what the Russians back it by gold, all of these currencies, the franc, the British pound, the Swiss franc, the euro, the yuan, all of those, USD goes to zero because competition, I'd rather have gold than dollars. Right? What would you rather have? Gold that you can't print, and there's no, what they mean by counterparty risk is there's nobody that can say it's worthless. This, we can print it to zero, and all of a sudden, well, yeah, you're holding dollars, but since we're the government, we keep printing it, it's worthless. So the dollar you have is worth zero. But they can't do that to gold. Nobody can print gold. It's not printable. It's not copyable. So you can't just print gold and say it's worthless. That's why gold's been around for 6,000 years and will never go away and will never be worthless. That's why it's the prudent play. You get out of the dollars going to zero, you get into gold. So Russia then has no choice but to come out with dollars backed by gold. Then it becomes, what do you want? Do you want a dollar that you light your cigars with, or do you want a dollar that has gold in it? Well, of course, you want the dollar with gold because, as you can see, this collapsing. Nobody wants it. Why would you want it? So he's saying nobody wants the ruble, and I'm saying, but all these countries are getting out of the dollar because nobody wants the fat 60-year-old at the bar. They want the hot 20-year-old at the bar, and the hot 20-year-old is gold, and she's been the hot 20-year-old for 6,000 years. And as the other currencies age, they become the fat, ugly girl at the end of the bar nobody wants. That's all the fiat currencies. Fiat is a dollar printed with backing by nothing. If you back it by gold, you can't print it to infinity and make it worthless. That's how simple it is, right? So when Aligator says it, that's what he means. He means that the ruble is the 70-year-old girl at the bar already. We're the 67-year-old girl at the bar, ready to be the 70-year-old girl at the bar. So they're collapsing because of the war, and we're not far behind because once they said, well, our only play is the gold-backed currency, which you forced me to do because you sanctioned me, and we're already at war with Russia, so what are you going to do? Because the U.S.'s trick has been, if you go to the gold standard, we're gonna go to war with you, and we're the most powerful military. Well, yeah, they used to be, but now they've sold all their weapons to the Ukraine. They don't have tanks and missiles and planes. They're all gone. And then the military is so weird right now where they don't want the normal guy in there. No, we want women and trans, and what kind of fucking army is this? So our army is much weaker. It's all woke. The generals are all out of their fucking minds, and Biden can't run it for shit. Look what he did in Afghanistan. So with all that said, nobody's afraid of the U.S. anymore. The only thing we have are missiles. We can nuke people, but then we get nuked. So it's like War Games, the movie. You're not gonna, if I nuke you, you nuke me. So there's no winner. So therefore, you wouldn't do it. But we're going broke. The whole Western countries, China, or Germany, and France, and England, and Canada, we're all going broke because our money's worthless. So when you hear all this shit, nobody's going to buy an electric car because there's not going to be money to buy it with. So we'll be stuck trading in the dollars for other currency because we'll need money to go to the bank or to go to the grocery store and go buy clothes and buy dinners. We'll need something. We can't take our gold there. So we will sell our gold for whatever the new currency is, because that's the only way a country can survive. You need a medium of exchange. And there's so many different prices on so many different things. How much is a can of tuna going to cost you? Well, it may be worth a 10-cent silver piece, but we don't have 10-cent silver pieces anymore. So that's why we'll need medium of exchange. We'll need new currency, preferably backed by gold, so we can sell our gold, get the new currency, go to the grocery store and buy our can of tuna. That's where the serious problem is everybody's like, I'm going to go buy a bunch of Mercury dimes and I can use those. Well, but the stores aren't set up for that. So until we know that's why the whole thing's a fucking nightmare. Okay, go to Kroger's and try to buy, I want to buy a steak and a ham and a hamburger and Fruity Pebbles for the kids and Cheerios and milk. How do I pay for it? Well, I have silver. How many people are going to have silver except for us? Right? So what's the average person going to do? They're fucked. And CBDCs, as he just said, nobody's going to vote for them. They're not even going to be, that's not even an option. So I still laugh when people are swearing, we'll have CBDCs by January 24th. Did you just hear what Aligator said? It'll take 10 years, but nobody wants them anyway because the banks control the government. The government's not going to vote the banks out because the banks put them in power. So there is no CBDC. The only out that the government has is to come out with a new currency backed by gold. Or they'll try a new currency not backed by anything. And if you hear that, it's the same fucking currency. So don't fall for it. Just stay away from it going, is it backed by gold? No. The only thing you care about in money is gold. You do not want to buy stock. You do not want to buy bonds. You don't want your money in the bank. You don't want to be in a CD or a money market getting 5%. 5% of zero is zero. So don't stay away from that shit. doesn't have gold or silver in it, get the fuck away, or you're going to get Madoff and you're going to get attacked on Wall Street and you're going to get the Big Short. You're fucked if you fall for this having a value. This has no value. This is paper. Understand that's the basic premise of economics, Austrian economics, what I teach. This is valueless. It's just paper. It's worth the same as my glass cleaner. It's the same as this piece. This is dollars, right? Only it doesn't have an amount on it. That's what this is, but you don't know it because they won't tell you. So understand you need assets, real assets, gold, silver, nano cards, Beardy cards, something that has a value. Even this has a value. I could sell it and get something for it. I can't find it in the grocery store now because it was 1997 when it was 12 years. So that's the basics. So the Russians will have to go to a gold-backed currency, which will elevate the gold price. Now, this is not maybe. This has to happen because the ruble is losing price. Once that happens, the rupee goes away. All the currencies go away. The BRICS now has we're going to go with a gold-backed BRICS currency, and that's it. So the Russian dollar blowing up, the silver lining is then they go to a gold-backed currency because they got 32,000 tons of gold and they can do it, which drives the gold price up because they can't print so much money. So you make the gold value higher so they don't print $1 billion equaling $10. Then it'll be priced in gold. So now one ruble backed by gold will be worth $1,000. So that's how it'll switch. But not this ruble, the gold-backed ruble. So once that happens, all the currencies blow up because nobody wants them. Then the demand goes away from those to the gold-backed currency or to gold. And then the gold price goes through the roof. And all the gold you're sitting on. So your 1 ounce that I can only get $1,900 for today is now $20,000, $30,000 an ounce. And that's why I don't want to sell it for the $2,000. And that's why I got to be careful with my money in the safe. If I need to use it, like I said, if I need to eat or I need something, then I have the money. I don't want to trade my gold in at these low prices. And the prices are low because the prices are in paper gold, not in physical gold. And that's the key to it. That's the whole key to it. There's paper prices, which is the COMEX and the London Exchange, are paper prices, keeping the price of gold down because they don't believe in gold. And they think if the price of gold's down, you won't buy it because you don't understand when you see the price go down, you don't want gold. Why would I want it? It's like buying Microsoft stock. So Microsoft's, let's say 300 and it goes down to 260. Are you going to sell your Microsoft? Are you not going to buy Microsoft because it's down? Or what do we hear? Oh, buy the dips, buy the dips. Well, as soon as all the money leaves, the $90 trillion held by the foreigners comes back home, which means they sell their stocks, they sell their houses, they take the money out of the banks. As soon as that all happens, Microsoft will be $5 a share and Apple, Tesla will be $0. So all you think you have in those will be worthless because they're all priced in dollars, which won't have a value. And what the foreigners own are stocks and bonds and bank money. So as they sell out of it, there's nobody to buy it. So if all this money gets sold out of, let's say Apple, what's it, $200 a share? So all the foreigners sell all their Apple. Well, the price of Apple is going to go down because unless you have buyers, so, okay, everybody sells. It's 190, it's 150, it's 100. There's nobody buying. It's 75, it's 50. There's nobody buying because nobody has the money to buy it because it's all the foreigners selling like it's a fire sale. So that's why you have to be 5 steps ahead, which is what we are. So we know this is all coming. This isn't an opinion. This is a fact. And it's just a matter of this whole kickoff will be the Russian ruble, which they're all, I understand what Egon and Alligator and Mark McGuire are saying, and it makes sense to me. So I'm not the only one with this, and it's not an opinion. It's just when it happens. So like Egon said, just buy your gold, be ready for it, and when it happens, we'll all be rich. And that's what you've got to realize. And we're not doing it to be rich. It's just part of, we're doing it to get out of this ridiculous shit. Okay, this is going to be worthless. That's why we're doing it. But the kicker is, since the gold's been held down for 50 years and the silver, that price will go to the moon. So we're really doing it to get out of this. This is what Alligator keeps saying. It's the value of the currency dropping, not the gold going up. We're selling this to get out of this because we don't have a choice. There's no other currency. Believe me, if I could say, go buy the euro, buy the Swiss franc, buy the British pound. I'm not saying that because they're all going to do the same thing. They're all going to zero. They're hoping you're ignorant and don't get it. And then when you all lose your money, you'll need the government, but the government will be out of business because they won't have any money to run. Just like now in the U.S., the government's closed today. It'll probably be closed for a month. They'll keep it open because they're the ones who they're out of a job. So they don't want to keep themselves out of a job. So they'll eventually vote to open the government back up. For us, it really doesn't matter. I don't know. Maybe we don't get mail today. I don't know. I assume the banks are working because they're really not federal. Maybe the Federal Reserve is, but like Comerica or Chase or Wells Fargo, I think's open today. I don't see why it would be closed. They are closed for government holidays, like Columbus Day. The bank will be closed, but I'm not sure. Now I know I'm supposed to get in a check or a direct deposit for Social Security. I think that should work. I'm supposed to pay rent today. I'm assuming that'll work. I can check my my bank balance and see if that did. It normally hits today, so I'll check tomorrow. I might check later, but really, since the first was a Sunday, it normally is like the second day. So normally, if the first is a Wednesday, I don't see it until the second. If I look on the first, I didn't pay rent. On the second, it shows rent paid. So I'm treating today as the first, so tomorrow I should see it. But that's what they're saying is all the dollars are going to crap, and to keep that in mind that it can happen at any time. It's not will it happen, it's when will it happen. And, because it's, like my class, it's not viewed by a million people like CNN or CNBC or ABC or any of those. It's just the YouTube audience who happens to stumble on me. Again, even if I look at this is good as gold, it's only 17,000 views. That's not a lot. The other one's probably about the same. So you have a few thousand people, if they even understand what they're talking about, to go buy gold if they believe it. I tell people about gold, they don't even believe me. I just shake my head, going, "Oh well." I like I said, I talked to my lifeguard friend, and I said, "I'm just trying to help him." She said, "More for us," because she's into the gold. She understands it. She says, "More for us. We'll have gold available for us." So even when I go to the gold store, there's nothing for me to buy. Well, if I had to, I could buy the ounce for $19.50, even though it's at $18.50. But that's all I can. Let me see. I know. Let's see. Gold price was down a little. Yeah, it's down $20. Down to 18.27, down $20. See, here's an article from Investors Business Daily, and they're wrong, but it's negative propaganda. Gold might go negative in 2023. Will these factors weigh? The gold price is perhaps not doing what investors going long in the precious metal are hoping to act as a hedge against both inflation and whatever. But they don't say it's paper gold. This is the problem, is idiots like this spewing out lies. So the problem is paper gold will go negative because it's manipulated and it's not about supply and demand. And it's derivative run. It's paper run. They're not selling 1 ounce of gold. Nobody's selling gold, but they won't tell you that. So you're going, oh, I don't want to buy gold because the price is going down. That's the problem with it. So people aren't told paper versus physical. So I went into the gold store and I says, you realize you're selling physical gold at paper prices. I don't think they understand that. I think they think that's the physical price. So the guys are selling, the banks are doing derivatives and lowering the price. And people think, oh, that's the price. That's, first of all, that's the paper price of gold. It's not the physical price of gold. So by actually owning 1 ounce coin, that hasn't gone down in price because nobody's selling them. You can't even find them. So the demand's huge, but the derivative, you don't need physical. Which, what the fuck? It's all fucked up. Okay, so I'm going to sell 1,000 bottles of this, which I don't have, to lower the price so a guy in China can buy this cheaper. Well, how can you do a derivative if you don't have it? Well, it's illegal, but I'm doing it. And you think Madoff was illegal and a scam? This whole fucking thing is illegal and a scam. This whole gold price going down is a bullshit price. And I think they threw a guy from Morgan Stanley. I think he got caught for price fixing, and I think he went to jail. So they're finally starting to crack the whip going, okay, JP Morgan, you're running, like whoever's doing these derivatives are going to go to jail because you have to have the physical to do it. You can't just keep sending derivatives. And I know a lot of it's algorithms and a lot of it's based on the dollar going up. But when we look at the dollar price going up, so the dollar, see, you can see the graph, the dollar versus the euro is going up, which is forcing the gold price down because there's a fucking algorithm that says, well, if you're improving to the euro, then I'm going to sell gold. It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's fucking ridiculous. So this is the problem, basically, is as we get stronger to the euro, well, because the euro is inflating, they're printing their money worse than we are. It's not like our dollar's any stronger. Their dollar's much more weak. So that's why the dollar's worth, our shit dollar is worth more than their shit euro. And gold's going down. I mean, we're not buying it as a hedge against inflation. We're buying it because it's not a hedge at all. This is going to zero. We're buying it to get out of this. It's not anything to do with the hedge against inflation, but inflation is devaluing this to nothing. This has a zero. That's what inflation's doing. Means you're printing the money and you're printing this to zero. So yes, before it hits zero, we're buying gold. That's the bottom line of what's really happening. And that's why people are like, well, wait a minute, my Oreos are $5 a package now. Why is gold the only thing not going up as the value of the dollar drops? This is the question, right? So if the dollar's going up, then versus the euro, why isn't Cheerios now $1 for a box? Why is it still $5? Because the value of the dollar is worthless. It's zero. Yeah, maybe 1 cent. So let's say this is worth 1 cent. So it takes more to buy the Cheerios. Why doesn't it take more to buy the gold and silver? What the fuck's going on? And that's really the problem is. It's so obvious because it's the only thing not going up. It's an asset. Gold's an asset. All assets go up. So that's the problem. So it's really a joke. But if you understand it, we're way ahead of the game. Okay. Oh, you're lowering gold price. Okay, I'm going to go buy some. It's as simple as that. I'm going to go buy it and off I go with it. So that's the bottom line. Because that's what Stone Cold would say if you understand gold. Let's see if I get anything. Okay. Okay, so what's my place? Now, if you were going out of town, would you tell your apartment you're going out of town? And then they know you're going out of town and then they can steal from you? So I don't know. But I assume my bank's working, and it's a direct deposit to pay rent. It's a direct deposit for Social Security to come in. I assume all that's working if the bank's open or not. Although I do realize my PayPal, when I get my Teaserking money, I send it to my bank because it's useless in PayPal. And I notice it happens on Monday, but I don't think it's because the government's closed. I just think the banks are not functioning on the weekends, and then Monday it starts. So I don't know if the government being down will affect my bank or me paying rent or me getting Social Security in. I don't think I don't think the banks are closed because of that. We will see. Anyway, have a good day. So we've touched last week's football games, college and pro. Next week's preview, college and pro. What we're looking for. We've touched on gold and the Russian ruble going to a gold standard, which will force BRICS to a gold standard, which will blow up all the fiat currencies. We have oil going to gold because they don't want to take rupees or these currencies that are worthless. Russia and Saudi Arabia doesn't want them. They don't want to give you oil for toilet paper. So they want gold. And I think they are charging, they do want to get paid in gold for that. So that's happening. So very positive outlook for gold, not too positive for the paper fiat currencies, but keep that in mind. So get your money out of the bank. As much gold as you can buy and or silver, buy it. It's just important and imperative to buy it to protect yourself and your family. And, your friends are going to be going, oh, help us. And that's why I give my girls some gold and silver now so they are protected to a point, and then off we go. But I think that's about it. It's time for dinner, I think, soon, 4:45. Good class, I think. No economic questions, but that's okay. We know gold and silver are going to go through the roof very, very soon. Once the Russians back their currency by gold, that'll be the start of it, and or our inflation, and or when people start realizing the dollar's worthless and they start selling it, that'll cause massive inflation in the gold price again. But it doesn't matter until JP Morgan and Comex in London stops doing paper gold, it won't really matter. So that's what's funny about it. I can go buy $1 million pounds of or 1,000,000 tons of gold tomorrow, and the price wouldn't go up because it's derivative option price down. They're selling these derivatives based on an algorithm. It's not even people selling it. This is why I hate AI and I hate this whole algorithm thing, because it's all bullshit. And it'll come back to haunt everybody as all the other shit they do. So keep that in mind. So www.teaserking.com. Had a great week in the pros. Really just missed the Green Bay game, but hit everything else. And then we've got Seattle tonight. However, not at -2.5, where you only get 3.5. I had it at +1.5, as I'm getting 7.5. So be leery about that. So I would make a smaller Seattle bet if you're looking for a play tonight. But yeah, when they were the dog, they were a much better play. Now the money's going on them, but they should win the game. And you got to tease them up to 3.5. If you lay 2.5, you might not win. But my thought was, I'm getting a touchdown, and Seattle is a great dog, so I'm not really worried about it. All right, everybody, www.teaserking.com. If you want my email, you can email me there. Football questions, gold questions, whatever you want. Otherwise, tomorrow about the same time, we put this week behind us. We'll look forward at what's going on. All right, everybody, have a great day. Good luck. Stay safe. Stay healthy. www.teaserking.com. All right, everybody, take care.